Chapter 2443, 2443 You're so weak. 2443 You're so weak. Even Lin Zhan and Fairy Ling Long were pleasantly surprised and in disbelief, let alone Lin Lei and his sister. However, the two of them were experienced and knowledgeable. When they thought about the variables revealed by Desolate Marshal, they could still maintain their composure. Lin Lei's face was filled with shock. His mind was in a mess from the news and he could not process it for a moment. He tried his best to organize his thoughts and asked, "No, wait a moment. Desolate Marshal is only a perfected immortal. How can he break through the void and escape from Langfeng City?" Fairy Ling Long said, "If Desolate Marshal has the hell suppression tripod in his hands, he should have already taken over Avicii and established a passage with it so that he can return there at any time. Isn't the hell suppression tripod with?" Lin Zhan had once heard Fairy Ling Long mention that the reason why Su Zimo survived his ascension was because he was hiding in the hell suppression tripod. However, before he could finish, he recalled that Su Zimo and Desolate Marshal were the same person to begin with. It was not surprising that the tripod hell suppression tripod was in the hands of Desolate Marshal. Lin Lei still had many doubts that he could not understand and asked, "Wait, more than 10 immortal kings descended and watched Desolate Marshal leave Langfeng City without doing anything?" "Yes, someone did something." The guard nodded hurriedly and said, in a fit of anger, "An immortal king chased after him and..." At that point, the guard suddenly gulped, as though he had a lingering fear. "And then what?" Lin Lei asked impatiently. The guard said, "Thereafter, not long after, the immortal king died." Lin Lei and Lin Luo were dumbfounded and their jaws nearly dropped to the ground. An existence like an immortal king who was almost at his peak in the upper world, died? Furthermore, he died under unknown circumstances. Instinctively, Lin Lei looked at Lin Zhan and Fairy Ling Long in confusion. When Fairy Ling Long heard the news and knew that Desolate Marshal was fine, she relaxed as well. Smiling, she explained, "Desolate Marshal broke through the void and returned to Avicii. The immortal king chased after him as well." "How dangerous is Avicii? Even Emperor-level experts can't come out alive." "Desolate Marshal is naturally not in danger with the hell suppression tripod guarding him. However, for that immortal king expert who went in, wasn't that the same as committing suicide?" "I see." Lin Lei was enlightened. The guard grinned slightly. "I heard that the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain suffered immense losses in this battle. More than half of their perfected immortal experts died alongside the 5 city lords of their immortal cities. There's definitely no chance for them to fight for the perfected immortal ranking at the 9 Firmament meet." Lin Zhan smiled and praised. He turned the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain upside down single-handedly and severely injured the Immortality Cultivation world. This damage will definitely take tens of thousands of years to recover. More than that, he even managed to escape unscathed. Impressive. Desolate Marshal will definitely become famous in the heavenly world and shock the 9 Firmament with this battle. Fairy Ling Long smiled. Actually, Desolate Marshal's name has already spread through the heavenly world 1,000 years ago. He underwent the 10th tribulation, annihilated an army of 1,000,000 fiends and slayed the supreme perfected fiend. Those were enough for him to be famous throughout the world. However, almost no one believed those rumors. In this battle, countless cultivators witnessed Desolate Marshal wreaking havoc in Langfeng City and killing thousands of perfected immortals. He killed the city lords of the 5 immortal cities, trapped an immortal king to death and escaped unscathed. From this day forth, none of the paragons and monster incarnates in the world will dare to look down on him anymore. When Lin Lei saw that his parents admired Desolate Marshal immensely and were not stingy with their praises, he could not help but feel jealous. Indeed, he admired Desolate Marshal's methods. However, he had been extremely outstanding among his peers since he was young and his parents had never praised him as such. Furthermore, Lin Zhan and Fairy Ling Long were praising Desolate Marshal right in front of him. That made him feel even more upset. Lin Lei said, "Desolate Marshal's combat strength is indeed strong. However, isn't he too reckless with his actions? He was merely pursuing an adrenaline rush and doesn't know how to take into account the bigger picture. Although he killed to his heart's content by barging into Langfeng City this time round and became famous throughout the world, he has also formed a feud with the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain. I'm certain that the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain will definitely make a huge move to take revenge on Desolate Marshal and his Tianhuang sect. Desolate Marshal has the Hell Suppression Tripod and can hide in Avicii at any moment. However, what about Tianhuang's sect? His actions will bring about a calamity for Tianhuang's sect. Lin Zhan and Fairy Ling Long exchanged glances and nodded to themselves. Lin Lei's words made sense. Unexpectedly, when the guard heard that, he waved it off. That won't happen. It's said that the immortal kings of the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain have decided to reconsider things at length. Huh? Lin Lei's eyes widened as he asked, how is that possible? Thousands of perfected immortals, the city lords of 5 immortal cities and an immortal king, the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain decided to let go of such a huge loss and deep feud? The guard replied, the exact reason is unknown, but I heard that it has something to do with a mask. However, the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain had indeed not taken revenge and merely focused on rebuilding Langfeng City. The immortal kings returned and did not appear again as well. Mask? Lin Lei had a lost expression and looked towards Lin Zhan and Fairy Ling Long instinctively. He felt that his understanding of the world had been challenged continuously for the past hour and he could no longer think properly. The reaction of the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain was beyond Lin Zhan and Fairy Ling Ling's expectations as well. Mask, mask. Fairy Ling Long murmured softly, what mask can make the immortal kings of the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain so wary? Could it be? Suddenly, a possibility crossed her mind. At the same time, Lin Zhan seemed to have understood something as he nodded to Fairy Ling Long, that should be the case. That mask is probably the only thing that can be so intimidating. Fairy Ling Long suddenly smiled. To think that Desolate Marshal would have so many secrets. I wonder what's his relationship with that person. Lin Zhan burst into laughter. The Jade Firmament Immortal Domain will have no choice but to take this loss. Lin Luo was engrossed at the side and did not say anything the entire time. At that moment, she snapped out of his stupor and could not help but clap and praise, Desolate Marshal is amazing. Among her peers, she had admired Lin Lei the most since she was young. But now, she suddenly realized that her brother was much inferior compared to Desolate Marshal of the Fiend Domain. Lin Luo patted Lin Lei on the shoulder with a grin and teased, brother, you're so weak compared to him. Lin Lei was already dejected. Now that his own sister stabbed him once more, he was extremely agitated and nearly fainted from the shock. Lin Lei's face darkened as he snapped, your judgment isn't that good either. The Su Zimo you fancy is far inferior compared to Desolate Marshal. When did I ever say that I fancied him? Lin Luo argued. Lin Lei pouted and continued, notwithstanding Desolate Marshal, that frail scholar is worlds compared to me. Lin Luo ran to Lin Zhan and Fairy Ling Long hurriedly and wheedled, father, mother, look at him. He's bullying me again. Lin Zhan and Fairy Ling Long exchanged glances. Lin Zhan sneered and glared at Lin Lei in a huff. Fairy Ling Long shook her head gently and said meaningfully, Layer, don't underestimate others. Perhaps one day, you might realize that you couldn't be any wronger. Chapter 2444, 2444 Flora Myriad Weapons. 2444 Flora Myriad Weapons. Lin Luo leaned against Lin Zhan and urged, Father, hurry and consume the 9 Revolutions Yang Reversion Pill and Soraka Fruit. I don't know if those 2 things will be useful for your injuries. Lin Zhan had a gentle expression and looked at Lin Luo dotingly with a smile. The medicine that my precious daughter painstakingly retrieved will definitely be useful. With the help of these 2 treasures, it won't be long before my injuries and cultivation recovers. That's great. Lin Luo leaped up in joy. That was the best news for her. All these years, she had been extremely sad when she saw her father severely injured and her mother worried day and night. However, she did not know how to help. And now, this problem was finally resolved perfectly. Lin Lei was delighted as well. The displeasure in his heart earlier on had long vanished. Compared to his father's health, nothing else mattered. Little sister, you've done a great deed this time round. Lin Lei smiled. I won't bully you anymore from now on. How dare you? Lin Luo raised her chin with a proud expression. Fairy Ling Long smiled. All right, go and play. Don't come in and disturb us. Understood. Lin Lei and Lin Luo realized that their father was about to recuperate in seclusion and bowed hurriedly to bid farewell. A series of joyful laughter sounded from outside the chamber. That sort of laughter had not appeared in the palace of the Battle Kingdom for many years. In the chamber, the smile on Fairy Ling Long's face gradually disappeared as she looked at the two departing children. She turned to look at Lin Zhan with a gentle gaze but remained silent. Lin Zhan reached out and held Fairy Ling Long's palm gently, saying softly, "You knew?" Fairy Ling Long nodded. "I know your injuries the best. The 9 revolutions yang reversion pill and Soraka fruit alone won't be able to save you." Knowing that he could not hide it from Fairy Ling Long, Lin Zhan smiled casually. "Not really. The Soraka fruit can heal my essence spirit and help me recover a little. If I'm lucky, my combat strength can even reach the Grotto Heaven realm. Of course, it's a little weak compared to when I was at my peak." Fairy Ling Long lowered her head in silence but her eyes reddened slightly. At his peak, Lin Zhan was a supreme immortal king who could condense a major Grotto Heaven. Furthermore, he was a top-tier existence among supreme immortal kings. At his peak, Lin Zhan ruled over an immortal kingdom and was fearless against all challenges. But now, even if he was lucky, he could only barely recover to the level of an ordinary immortal king. The difference was like heaven and earth. What sort of torture was this huge difference for Lin Zhan? Lin Zhan said, "I didn't tell the two children the truth because I didn't want them to worry. All these years, the two of them have been worried and endured too much. It's been a long time since I've seen them so happy." "I know." Fairy Ling Long secretly wiped away the tears in her eyes and forced a smile. "Actually, that's good as well. By spreading the news that you've recovered, it's also a form of threat to some of the restless factions outside. They don't know the details so they won't dare to act rashly." Lin Zhan nodded, but there was still a hint of helplessness and bitterness in the depths of his eyes as he murmured, "I wonder how long this matter can remain hidden." The news of the battle in Langfeng City of the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain spread rapidly among the 9 Firmament Immortal Domain. In less than 5 days, news of it spread through the heavenly world. Desolate Marshal became famous after a single battle and caused a huge stir in the 9 Firmament Immortal Domain and Pure Land of Bliss. The name of Desolate Marshal had long spread in the Fiend Domain and things were initially relatively calm. However, when they heard that Desolate Marshal headed to the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain alone and started a massacre, countless fiend cultivators shouted wildly. "Have you heard? A supreme fiend was born in the Fiend Domain." "I heard. He underwent the 10th tribulation, destroyed an army of 1,000,000 fiends and killed the supreme perfected fiend. He barged into the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain alone and caused a huge ruckus at the Immortal Peach Banquet where he killed thousands of perfected immortals, the city lords of the 5 immortal cities and even an immortal king. There's no reaction from the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain despite suffering such immense losses? Who would dare? Desolate Marshal is backed by Emperor Bo Sun who ruled over the heavenly world in the past. Who would dare to provoke him? Almost all the cultivators from the major sects and factions of the heavenly world, the immortal cities of the immortal kingdoms and every corner were discussing this matter. Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. In front of painting Immortal Mo Qing's cave abode, Sword Immortal Yuhua held a messenger jade scroll in his hands and lingered in the vicinity. A long time later, the door to the cave abode opened slowly. Mo Qing strode out and asked with an indifferent expression, "Senior brother, why are you looking for me?" "Something happened in the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain." Sword Immortal Yuhua said. Mo Qing did not care about the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain at all. In recent years, when she went to the Academy's Messenger Pavilion to browse through information, she merely focused on some news of the Fiend Domain. However, immediately after, Sword Immortal Yuhua continued, the peerless fiend of the Fiend Domain, Desolate Marshal, has appeared. Mo Qing's expression changed. She tried her best to steady herself and maintain her composure as she said nonchalantly, "Let me take a look." Sword Immortal Yuhua handed over the messenger jade scroll in his hands. Mo Qing placed it on her forehead and her spirit consciousness surged in. Before long, she browsed through all the news discovered by Heaven and Earth Academy in Langfeng City. The information in the Jade Scroll was not detailed and did not describe the situation after Desolate Marshal left. However, Mo Qing discovered a detail in the Messenger Jade Scroll. Junior brother Su of the Academy was also in Langfeng City at that time. In other words, there was a high chance that junior brother Su was present and witnessed this battle personally. Mo Qing was prepared to make a move to the inner sect of the Academy to ask Su Zimo about this personally. When Sword Immortal Yuhua saw Mo Qing take the Messenger Jade Scroll and leave without saying anything to him after browsing through it, he could not help but feel displeased. Sword Immortal Yuhua frowned. "Where are you intending to go, junior sister?" This matter has caused a huge stir in the Nine Firmament Immortal Domain. Master has already ordered us to try our best not to leave the Academy during this period of time. Because of the battle in Langfeng City, many factions of the Nine Firmament Immortal Domain felt immensely threatened. Who could guarantee that Desolate Marshal would not come knocking the next time and kill everyone before turning to leave? In fact, some sects and factions even sealed their mountains and placed restrictions on their disciples, afraid that they would bump into this peerless fiend should they wander outside. Even for a heaven-grade sect like Heaven Earth Academy, immortal kings had begun to patrol the Academy from time to time. Su Zimo did not know at all that not only did the battle of the Martial Dao Prime Body make him famous, it even caused the entire Nine Firmament Immortal Domain to be on tenterhooks. "Senior brother, am I supposed to inform you of my whereabouts?" Mo Qing asked instead. Sword Immortal Yuhua chuckled. "Junior sister, you're putting it too seriously. The reason why I rushed over right away when I heard about this was to remind you to be careful. After all, this peerless fiend is incomparably violent and bloodthirsty. He doesn't know how to cherish women." Suddenly, Mo Qing recalled something and smiled in a rare manner, saying gently, "It's fine, the Academy is safe with you around, senior brother." Sword Immortal Yuhua was stunned when he saw Mo Qing's smile. When he heard Mo Qing's words, he was pleasantly surprised and smiled. Mo Qing continued, "After all, Desolate Marshal's reputation probably precedes him. If he dares to appear, I'm sure you will definitely be able to sever his facade and destroy his myth with a single slash, senior brother." With that said, Mo Qing floated away. The smile on Sword Immortal Yuhua's face froze and his expression darkened completely. He had said those exact words to Mo Qing in the past. But now, it sounded extremely ironic. That was because right now, there was no perfected immortal in the entire Nine Firmament Immortal Domain or even the heavenly world who would dare to say something like that to Desolate Marshal. Chapter 2445, 2445 Painting Immortal's Thoughts. 2445 Painting Immortal's Thoughts. Sword Immortal Yuhua looked in the direction where Fairy Mo Qing left with a terrible expression. Before long, a cultivator sped over. This person was also a legacy disciple named Shaoli. After joining the legacy ground, he had always followed Sword Immortal Yuhua and obeyed his orders. "Where did she go?" Sword Immortal Yuhua asked in a deep voice. Shaoli said, "I saw senior sister Mo Qing head to the inner sect of the Academy with my own eyes. It was in the direction of Su Zimo's cave abode." "Him again?" Sword Immortal Yuhua frowned. Shaoli was puzzled as well. "From what I know, this is already senior sister Mo Qing's second time going to Su Zimo's cave abode." Sword Immortal Yuhua's expression was dark and he remained silent, deep in thought. Shaoli said in a deep voice, senior sister Mo Qing has an aloof personality and doesn't like to interact with others. She has always been alone and has never taken the initiative to head to anyone's cave abode in the legacy ground. Why did she head to the inner sect of the academy twice to look for Su Zimo? I might have been wrong. Suddenly, Sword Immortal Yuhua said, because of the previous rumors, I subconsciously thought that there was something between Mo Qing and Yang Ruoxu. However, all these years, after Yang Ruoxu entered the Perfected One realm and became a legacy disciple, he became extremely close to Princess Scarlet Rainbow of the inner sect of the academy. The only thing missing is an official declaration from both of them that they are Dao companions. Shaoli nodded. It's impossible between senior sister Mo Qing and Yang Ruoxu. Sword Immortal Yuhua said, I've just recalled carefully. Actually, there was another person at the scene when Mo Qing appeared twice to save Yang Ruoxu. Su Zimo. Shaoli probed. Sword Immortal Yuhua nodded and narrowed his eyes slightly. Several thousand years ago, at the Immortal Sect's election, for some unknown reason, Mo Qing suddenly appeared and descended upon the coiling Dragon Mountain range to save Yang Ruoxu. However, the cause of that conflict was Su Zimo. Thereafter, during the conflict in the outer sect of the academy, Yang Ruoxu was present as were we. That was when Mo Qing appeared once more. However, the root of that conflict was Su Zimo once again. The person Mo Qing truly saved the past 2 times was Su Zimo. Shaoli frowned. Senior sister Mo Qing and Su Zimo. Senior sister Mo Qing is an expert of the Perfected One Hollow Nether Realm and is one of the 4 great fairies. Su Zimo has just entered the Heaven Essence realm not long ago. The difference between them is too great, right? Sword Immortal Yuhua harumphed coldly. Don't forget, Su Zimo once condensed the 10th stone step of the Dao Heart Stairs. Unprecedentedly, he was even accepted by Master as an in-name disciple. In terms of status, he's not much inferior to us. However, how can Su Zimo compare to you, senior brother? Shaoli still could not understand and shook his head. His cultivation realm, status, background, reputation, glory, connections and faction, he doesn't have any advantage in anything. Compared to you, he's worlds apart. Senior sister Mo Qing isn't blind. Why would she fancy Su Zimo? The moment he said that, Sword Immortal Yuhua wavered once more and said deeply, your words are extremely pertinent and make absolute sense. Compared to me, Su Zimo is indeed way too inferior. Shaoli said, perhaps there's nothing between senior sister Mo Qing and Su Zimo to begin with. Previously, there were many rumors about senior sister Mo Qing and Yang Ruoxu as well. However, now that we look back at them, weren't they just rumors and nonsense? Yes, perhaps I'm being overly suspicious. Sword Immortal Yuhua seemed to be in deep thought. However, I always have the nagging feeling that I seem to have seen Su Zimo somewhere before. After Su Zimo brought Tao Yao back to Heaven and Earth Academy, he headed straight for his cave abode and did not appear for a few days. Firstly, he had appeared in Langfeng City as a disciple of the academy. Now that such a huge thing had happened in the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain, he wanted to avoid the limelight and wait and see. However, after a few days of observation, he realized that his worries were completely unfounded. Compared to the appearance of the Fiend Domain's desolate marshal and his massacre, no one cared about anything else. Even Lin Lei and his sister were barely discussed, let alone him. Secondly, he had a lot to catch up with Tao Yao after such a long time. Su Zimo intended to keep Tao Yao by his side for the time being. He had to remind Tao Yao about some things lest the latter encountered any trouble in Heaven and Earth Academy. Under normal circumstances, inner sect disciples like him could choose 100 immortal servants from the academy. However, he had too many secrets and there was no way he could have implicit trust on any immortal servant. Therefore, his cave abode had been extremely deserted all these years. He was the only one and had to deal with all the chores and trivial matters himself. Now that Tao Yao was by his side, he could save himself a lot of trouble and instill a bit of human warmth as well. Thirdly, he had benefited immensely from this trip to the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain. His cultivation realm had already risen to the level of a grade 5 heaven immortal. For treasures alone, there was the immortal willow, Bodhi seed, grand pure purple cloud talisman and an immortal peach seedling. In terms of cultivation techniques, he obtained the pure jade manual and also the dermic Tao of the twilight drum. All of that required a large amount of time to cultivate and consolidate. Of course, the greatest gain of the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain was the recovery of Tao Yao. Apart from the Ashoka tree from before, there were now 2 more immortal trees in the cave abode. All these years, the Ashoka tree showed no signs of resurrection. Su Zimo decided to plant the withered branch of the immortal willow and the immortal peach seedling he obtained and wait and see. For the past few days, Tao Yao would visit the 3 immortal trees from time to time and take good care of them. On the couch in the cave abode, Su Zimo held the Bodhi seed in his hands and was browsing through the pure jade manual. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat as he heard a message from outside the cave abode. Senior Sister Mo Qing. After pondering for a moment, Su Zimo stood up and went outside the cave abode to welcome Senior Sister Mo Qing in. If it was anyone else, Su Zimo would most likely ignore them. However, Senior Sister Mo Qing had saved him twice after all, and the 2 of them had even gone through thick and thin in Avicii. After Mo Qing sat down, she took the initiative to speak without exchanging pleasantries. I heard about what happened in the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain. You were there too, right? Ah. Su Zimo was stunned. For the past few days, everyone in the academy had been discussing Desolate Marshal of the Fiend Domain and no one paid attention to him. This was the first time someone had asked about this matter. Does the fact that she suddenly asked that means that she's already suspicious of me and Desolate Marshal? Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. After all, in both Avicii and Langfeng City, he was present at the same time as the Martial Dao Prime Body. It was indeed easy for people to make connections. Ha! That's a coincidence. Su Zimo laughed and said vaguely, by some freak coincidence, I happened to be in Langfeng City at that time. Who knew that Desolate Marshal would suddenly charge over? I heard that it was because a Dao child that served him was captured by the city lord of Langfeng City. The battle was intense and chaotic at that time, so I did not have the time to chat with him. Mo Qing had a calm expression as she acknowledged. The news I saw in the messenger jade scroll was not detailed. Tell me more about the situation. Su Zimo was at a loss. From Senior Sister Mo Qing's expression, it seemed like she did not suspect him. In that case, why did she suddenly head over to ask about such a thing? Su Zimo could not understand Mo Qing's thoughts and could only recount the entire situation from the perspective of a bystander. Fairy Mo Qing was engrossed at the side. From time to time, a look would flash through her beautiful eyes and a faint smile would appear on her lips. Chapter 2446, 2446 Painting a Portrait of Him. 2446 Painting a Portrait of Him. She's actually smiling? As Su Zimo was narrating, he inadvertently glanced at Mo Qing's elegant and refined face from the corner of his eye in surprise. Blinking, he looked up and realized that Mo Qing was sitting there with an indifferent expression, as though the smile on her lips earlier on was just his imagination. Su Zimo did not think too much about it. After all, there was indeed nothing laughable about the battle in Langfeng City. Furthermore, Senior Sister Mo Qing was immersed in the Tao of painting and had a calm personality. She was pure with few desires, rarely revealing any semblance of emotions. Why would she smile because of a huge battle in the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain? When I saw that the situation was bad, I ran back in advance. I heard that Desolate Marshal escaped and scathed later on as well. Su Zimo heaved a sigh of relief and finally finished recounting the matter. Mo Qing lowered her head slightly and asked, Did Desolate Marshal contact you later on? No. Su Zimo shrugged his shoulders gently. He was not lying about that. The Martial Dao Prime Body had not taken the initiative to contact him after entering Avicii. He had too many things on his side and couldn't care less about the Martial Dao Prime Body. Mo Qing sat quietly in silence for a long time in deep thought. Su Zimo could not chase Mo Qing out either and could only sit by the side in confusion. After a long time, Mo Qing suddenly turned around and looked at Su Zimo, asking hesitantly, "Junior brother Su, do you know what fellow Daoist desolate martial looks like?" Su Zimo felt guilty and did not know how to reply. No matter how he thought about it, the only way he could bluff his way through was to pretend that he did not know. Just as Su Zimo was about to make up a casual excuse, he raised his head and met Mo Qing's eyes. Those eyes were clear as water, pure and moving, as though they were the most beautiful painting in the world. Looking at those eyes, Su Zimo could not bring himself to lie. Avoiding Mo Qing's gaze, he reached out and picked up a cup of fragrant tea at the side to hide his emotions. "Senior sister, why are you curious about desolate Marshall's appearance?" Mo Qing said, "I want to paint a portrait of him." Cough, cough. Su Zimo had just taken a sip of tea. When he heard that, he choked and blushed. Mo Qing had a calm expression and explained in an indifferent tone, "It's because fellow Daoist desolate Marshall saved me before. I don't have anything to repay him and can only give him a painting as a token of my appreciation." "I see." Su Zimo composed himself and lamented internally, "I was thinking too much." He coughed gently. "Senior sister, you can just find a random painting to give him. Every single painting of yours is a treasure of the world." "How can that do?" Mo Qing shook her head and said seriously, "If I'm only giving him a painting, I naturally have to express my sincerity. How can I be so casual about it?" Su Zimo said, "Senior sister, you can just do a new painting. Why are you asking about desolate Marshall's appearance?" "I want to draw a desolate Marshall himself." Mo Qing blurted. "A portrait painting?" Su Zimo's eyes widened as he looked at Mo Qing in shock. Instinctively, he asked, "Senior sister, didn't you say you never draw portraits?" At the mention of that, Mo Qing lowered her head slightly and avoided Su Zimo's gaze, saying softly, "Because I obtained the divine ghost immortal fiend diagram and had a new comprehension of the Tao of painting, I wanted to try and draw a portrait." Su Zimo was stunned on the spot and his mind was in chaos. No matter how oblivious he was, he understood at this moment why senior sister Mo Qing would come to his cave abode twice to ask about the martial Tao prime body. "It's fine if you don't want to tell me. I'll head back first." Suddenly, Mo Qing stood up and walked out of the cave abode. Su Zimo stood up hurriedly as well and sent senior sister Mo Qing out the door. He only felt relieved after senior sister Mo Qing disappeared from his line of sight. But soon, he felt a headache. It couldn't be right. What was this? For a moment, Su Zimo did not know how to deal with this matter. Under normal circumstances, the simplest solution was to lay his cards on the table with Mo Qing, tell her that he was desolate Marshall. If senior sister Mo Qing knew that he was desolate Marshall, she would most likely look down on him and give up immediately. However, the martial Tao prime body was his secret and greatest trump card. He did not want to expose it too early. After pondering for a long time, Su Zimo could only choose to delay for the time being. In any case, the martial Tao prime body and Mo Qing were worlds apart and could not get together. In the future, he would cultivate in seclusion in the academy and hide from senior sister Mo Qing. As time passed, senior sister Mo Qing would probably forget about this matter. Right then, the martial Tao prime body suddenly sensed something. The martial Tao prime body arrived at Avicii and made use of the living beings of hell inside. Before long, he killed the immortal king that was chasing after him. Thereafter, the martial Tao prime body did not linger in Avicii and returned to Tianhuang sect directly. This time round, the martial Tao prime body had benefited quite a bit as well. Notwithstanding the storage bag of an immortal king, there were also thousands of Tao fruits. Every Tao fruit contained the dermic Tao of a perfected immortal and was extremely precious. This was a gain that countless perfected immortals would fight for in the cultivation world. In order to refine the true martial Tao body and continue comprehending the martial Tao dermic formulation, the number of Tao fruits required by the martial Tao prime body was unimaginable. The reason why the martial Tao prime body summoned the green lotus true body this time round was because of something else. 1,000 years ago, news of Feng Cantian entering the Grotto Heaven realm and being conferred the title of Immortal King Heavenly Wrath had long spread to the 9 firmament immortal domain. However, after so long, there was still no news of perfected immortal burial knight and Feng Zi. The two of them did not rush to the fiend domain to meet Feng Cantian either. Perfected Immortal Burial Knight was an old friend of Feng Santian's from his generation in Tianhuang mainland. Feng Zi was Feng Santian's granddaughter and his only kin in this world. Feng Cantian was worried and even headed to the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain to search. However, the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain was vast and boundless. If Feng Cantian searched bit by bit, it would be equivalent to searching for a needle in a haystack. Because he released his spirit consciousness as an immortal king to search, the great Jin immortal kingdom was drawn to him before long, and a few supreme immortal kings even joined forces to hunt him down. Feng Cantian had just formed his grotto heaven and was not a match for the many immortal kings. Helpless, he could only retreat to the fiend domain. It was inconvenient for Feng Cantian to do anything in the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. Therefore, he wanted Su Zimo, who was a disciple of the academy, to find out more about news of perfected Immortal Burial Knight and Feng Zi. When he received the news before his cave abode, Su Zimo remained silent. This was indeed a huge matter. Under normal circumstances, if perfected Immortal Burial Knight and Feng Zi were fine and heard that Feng Cantian had already established himself in the fiend domain, they would definitely head there. However, there was no news of the two of them for 1,000 years. Su Zimo recalled something. Back when the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom wanted to hunt him down, they also launched a frenzied encirclement and suppression of Remnant Knight, the organization established by perfected Immortal Burial Knight. The leader was Prince Yuanzhua. Even if perfected Immortal Burial Knight and Feng Zi were still alive, their situation over the years must have been extremely bad. Right now, the only possibility was that perfected Immortal Burial Knight and Feng Zi were not in the hands of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. Otherwise, the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom would definitely use the two of them to threaten Feng Cantian. Chapter 2447, 2447 Old Friends. 2447 Old Friends. At the mention of Feng Zi, Su Zimo could not help but think of someone else. Prince Yuanzhua. Back then, it was because Prince Yuanzhua held the hunting meet that he got to know Feng Zi and eventually saved Feng Cantian. 1,000 years ago, near Great Tai Wei Mountain, Prince Yuanzhua joined forces with Flying Immortal Sex Heaven Immortal Gui Yuan, Peng Yi of the Peng clan, Xia Tianhong of the Yen Yang Immortal Kingdom, Tang Peng of the Academy and the others to ambush and kill him. In the end, they were defeated by the 4 sacred souls awakened from the Hell Suppression Tripod and suffered immense losses. Peng Yi, Heaven Immortal Gui Yuan, Tang Peng and the others were all dead. Xia Tianhong, Perfected Immortal Jingyu and Perfected Immortal Imperial Dragon were buried in Avicii as well. Only Prince Yuanzhua noticed that the situation was bad and escaped back to the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. All these years, there had been no news of Prince Yuanzhua, as though he had vanished without a trace. Su Zimo had joined Heaven and Earth Academy and was now backed by one of the 4 immortal sections. Even Zither Immortal Meng Yao did not have much chance to attack and Prince Yuanzhua could only give up. If I were to search for perfected Immortal Burial Knight and Feng Zi alone, it would be akin to searching for a needle in a haystack. I've got to use the Academy's strength. At that thought, Su Zimo was prepared to head to the inner sect and ask Yang Ruoxu about what to do. Right then, an auspicious cloud sped over not far away with 3 figures standing on it. Su Zimo looked up and could not help but smile. Yang Ruoxu and Princess Scarlet Rainbow held hands and walked together. Beside them stood a child around 9 years old. He wore a green robe and had a tender face. He looked very cute but his eyes were mature. It was Lu Ping. The 3 of them could be considered as Su Zimo's only acquaintances in Heaven and Earth Academy. Since young Ruoxu was among them, it saved him the trouble of making another trip. "Brother Su, how have you been?" Before he arrived, young Ruoxu said loudly with a smile as he stood on the auspicious cloud. Princess Scarlet Rainbow and Lu Ping beckoned and greeted him as well. Su Zimo smiled. "I've obtained the legacy of the sect master and divined with my fingers to know that old friends are coming to visit today. As such, I came out in advance to welcome them." Ha 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 ha. Young Ruoxu and the other two burst into laughter. In the blink of an eye, the three of them descended. Su Zimo brought the three of them back to the cave abode and sat down one after another. It had been 1,000 years since the four of them last met. Young Ruoxu said, "Over the years, there have been a few times when I wanted to look for you. However, I saw that you were in seclusion and did not disturb you. To think that you would run to the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain after coming out of seclusion this time round and even encounter an unprecedented battle." Su Zimo shook his head gently and smiled bitterly. It was a freak coincidence. "Senior brother, why you?" As though he had discovered something, Lu Ping pointed at Su Zimo with widened eyes. "You've already cultivated to become a grade 5 heaven immortal?" Young Ruoxu swept his spirit consciousness and detected Su Zimo's cultivation realm. "Indeed. How strong." Young Ruoxu could not help but exclaim. Princess Scarlet Rainbow was shocked as well. Back at the 10,000-year meet, the three of them entered the Heaven Essence realm at almost the same time and joined the inner sect. Over the years, Princess Scarlet Rainbow and young Ruoxu spent a lot of time together. She was a little lazy in her cultivation and had just entered the level 2 Heaven Essence realm. After Lu Ping's assimilation, he underwent a complete transformation and gained extraordinary potential. He cultivated wholeheartedly but was only at the peak of the level 2 Heaven Essence realm right now. However, Su Zimo had already cultivated to become a grade 5 Heaven Immortal. It had only been slightly more than 2,000 years since the 10,000-year meet. That cultivation speed had already surpassed common sense and the understanding of ordinary people. "Senior brother Su, how did you cultivate?" Princess Scarlet Rainbow could not help but ask. Young Ruoxu said, "Cultivating in seclusion in the Heaven Essence realm is not enough. There are too many bottlenecks. In order to advance, you have to head out often to train." Exactly. Su Zimo was in absolute agreement with that point. The reason why he could cultivate to become a grade 5 Heaven Immortal in 2,000 years was mainly because of the trip to Avicii 1,000 years ago and this trip to the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain recently. He had benefited immensely from the two expeditions, and it was not only in terms of his cultivation realm that had advanced by leaps and bounds. Right then, Tao Yao walked over from the depths of the cave abode with a pot of freshly brewed tea. He came before the four of them and filled their cups one after another. In the Battle of Langfeng City, the martial Dao Prime Body went on a massacre and the battlefield was in chaos. No one noticed that Su Zimo had left with Tao Yao. Therefore, he did not ask Tao Yao to hide either. Princess Scarlet Rainbow looked at the Dao child with clear eyes and makeup before her and asked in surprise, "Senior brother Su, you're finally starting to recruit immortal servants?" All three of them knew that there had never been outsiders in Su Zimo's cave abode. Previously, Lu Ping even took the initiative to want to come over to Su Zimo's cave abode to help with chores, but the latter did not agree. Now that a Dao child had appeared, the three of them were surprised. The strange thing was that the Dao child's aura was extremely pure and clean, untainted by the mortal world. Princess Scarlet Rainbow could not help but reach out and pinch Tao Yao's cheek gently. Tao Yao did not dodge and merely smiled gently. Although he did not know the three people before him, when he saw Su Zimo welcome them into the cave abode, he knew that they definitely had a good relationship with the latter. Naturally, he expressed goodwill towards the three of them as well. "Senior brother Su, where did you find this immortal servant? He's so obedient." Princess Scarlet Rainbow could not help but praise. She wished that she could hold Tao Yao's tender face in her hands and kiss it a few times. Tao Yao had never killed anyone and was not tainted by karma or blood. Any living being that saw him would not be able to help but have a good impression of him. He's not an immortal servant. He's an old friend of mine from the lower worlds. Right now, he's a Tao child by my side called Tao Yao. Su Zimo shook his head gently and did not explain further. Instead, he introduced Yang Ruoxu and the other two to Tao Yao. Tao Yao bowed respectfully to Yang Ruoxu and the other two. Although that action seemed nonchalant and indifferent, it was far from simple. What were the statuses of Yang Ruoxu and the other two? They were inner sect disciples and legacy disciples of the academy. If he was just an ordinary immortal servant, there was no need for Su Zimo to introduce Tao Yao to the three of them. This action meant that the Tao child had an extremely important status in Su Zimo's heart. Since Yang Ruoxu and the other two could think of that, they did not dare to delay and stood up hurriedly to return the greeting. Tao Yao smiled gently and retreated. Lu Ping rolled his eyes and could not help but bring up the past. Senior brother Su, you've already made an exception to recruit people. I can move over as well and be a Tao child by your side. Actually, in Lu Ping's heart, Su Zimo was not merely a senior brother of the same sect. Back in the 9 heavens of the Yen-Yang Immortal Kingdom, if not for Su Zimo's help, he would have died long ago. Later on, not only did he survive, he even underwent a complete transformation and obtained an unimaginable opportunity. In his heart, Su Zimo was more like a benefactor. That was the reason why he wanted to move over time and again to help Su Zimo with trivial matters. In truth, at that moment, Lu Ping did not understand it yet. The fact that he had such inclinations was not merely because Su Zimo was his benefactor. More than that, Su Zimo was the one and only creation green lotus. All the flora in the world would inevitably want to converge towards the vicinity of the creation green lotus. Chapter 2448, 2448 Power of an Immortal Kingdom. 2448 Power of an Immortal Kingdom. Even Su Zimo did not realize that point. Although he was able to obtain top-tier immortal wood of the heavenly world such as the Ashoka wood, immortal willow, and immortal peach tree sapling due to his opportunities, part of it was naturally due to fate and the nature of creation as well. We'll talk about this later. Su Zimo shook his head gently without commenting. When Lu Ping saw that Su Zimo was unwilling to agree, his heart skipped a beat. I'm going to look for Tao Yao. I'm not playing with you adults anymore. Boring. With that said, Lu Ping jogged into the backyard of the cave abode. Su Zimo did not stop him. However, he chatted idly with Yang Ruoxu and Princess Scarlet Rainbow while paying attention to the activity behind the cave abode. Although Lu Ping was not young, he was a child after all and looked similar to Tao Yao. The two children gathered together without any barriers. Lu Ping had been in the academy for a long time and picked out some interesting things to tell Tao Yao. Tao Yao was extremely curious and gradually became familiar with Lu Ping. He knew nothing about Heaven and Earth Academy or the entire upper world. When Su Zimo sensed that, he could not help but feel amused. Naturally, he could tell what Lu Ping was thinking. He wanted to get closer to Tao Yao and find a way to stay here. Sensing the smile on Tao Yao's face and the glint in his eyes, Su Zimo's heart softened and he was suddenly touched. He was usually in seclusion cultivation most of the time. Tao Yao would definitely feel a sense of loneliness facing the massive cave abode alone. Back in Pingyang town, Tao Yao still had those cute and kind villagers. However, apart from him, Tao Yao did not know anyone else in Heaven and Earth Academy of the heavenly world. In the future, when Tao Yao walked in the academy and faced this new environment with so many unfamiliar experts around him, he would inevitably feel timid and alienated. It would be a good choice if he could have someone his age from the academy by his side. Even if Su Zimo was cultivating in seclusion usually, the two children could chat and accompany one another instead of feeling lonely. If Lu Ping insists on staying, let him be. A thought flashed through Su Zimo's mind. Lu Ping, who was chatting merrily with Tao Yao, had yet to realize that Su Zimo's thought would change his fate completely. This would be the greatest opportunity in his life. Many years later, when that person stepped onto the peak and looked down on the world, the two Dao children who served him would also be revered and praised by countless descendants. Right. Su Zimo thought of something and asked, Brother Yang, if I want to look for two people in the divine firmament immortal domain, how should I make use of the Academy's power? The most direct way is to issue a bounty mission in the Academy. Yang Ruoxu said, however, the divine firmament immortal domain is vast. Unless there are any clues, it's extremely difficult to find two people. Furthermore, such a mission takes a long time and might not have an outcome. There won't be many disciples of the Academy who will accept this sort of mission. Su Zimo understood. In other words, Heaven and Earth Academy might not be of much use in searching for perfected immortal burial Knight and Feng Zi. Yang Ruoxu glanced at Princess Scarlet Rainbow beside him. Actually, the three immortal kingdoms are better at searching for people. The three immortal kingdoms rear a large number of immortal armies and many information-gathering organizations. They have many ears and eyes all around. With a single order, the massive immortal kingdoms might be able to discover something. Princess Scarlet Rainbow said, although I'm a princess of the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom, I'm out all year round and don't have any faction of my own. However, I can inform Brother Qingqing about this. Pausing for a moment, she looked at Su Zimo. Senior Brother Su, you know him too? Yes, Prince Qingqing. Su Zimo nodded slightly. Back when he participated in the 10,000-year meet in the capital of the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom, he saved the city lord of Dragon Abyss City, Su Shi, and his child, Su Shaotian. Because of that, he had a conflict with the major immortal Dao clan, the Shui clan, and Soda feud. At that time, he was only an outer sect disciple of the Academy and could not make the decision to take Su Shi and Su Shaotian in. It was this Prince Qingqing who took the initiative to keep Su Shi and his son by his side, preventing the two of them from being taken revenge by the Shui clan. Although Prince Qingqing had an average status in the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom and was only an ordinary prince, Su Zimo had a good impression of him. Princess Scarlet Rainbow said, Brother Qingqing doesn't rule over a territory and his power is limited. However, he's in the Yang Immortal Kingdom all year round after all and has many subordinates. He can help in this matter. In that case, thank you very much. Su Zimo stood up hurriedly and expressed his thanks to Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Regardless of whether this matter comes to an end, thank Prince Qingqing on my behalf. During this period of time, Su Zimo cultivated the Pure Jade Manual and gained some insights. Although he could not control the Jade Manual in his consciousness, he could already attempt to connect to the world within the Jade Manual, the Pure Magnificence Heaven. In the Pure Magnificence Heaven, there was a gigantic palace made entirely of essence spirit stones. When dismantled, there would be hundreds of millions of essence spirit stones. There's 100 million essence spirit stones in this storage bag. Help me give them to Prince Qingqing. Su Zimo took out 100 million essence spirit stones from the Pure Magnificence Heaven and handed it over. If he finds them, I'll offer more gifts as gratitude. 100 million essence spirit stones. Yang Ruoxu and Princess Scarlet Rainbow were shocked. Even though Yang Ruoxu was a perfected immortal, he could not produce so many essence stones. This is a vast fortune. The way Yang Ruoxu looked at Su Zimo turned strange. Princess Scarlet Rainbow waved it off hurriedly. This is too much. If Prince Qingqing leads his subordinates to issue bounties, he will require essence spirit stones as well. As Su Zimo said that, he stuffed the storage bag in his hands into Princess Scarlet Rainbow's hands. Senior Brother Su, you've yet to tell us who the two people you're looking for are. Princess Scarlet Rainbow thought for a moment and did not decline further. She accepted the 100 million essence spirit stones and asked again. Su Zimo asked, have the two of you heard of Remnant Knight? I've heard of it. It's an assassin organization that originated from the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. However, there's not much of it left now that it's been hunted down by the execution guards. Yang Ruoxu said, I heard that the founder of Remnant Knight is an old friend of Feng Cantion. Su Zimo nodded. I'm looking for the founder of Remnant Knight, a perfected immortal. His cultivation is at the end of his lifespan and his Dao title is Burial Knight. The other is Feng Zi, a young woman. Pausing for a moment, Su Zimo continued, I'm not sure about their characteristics. Given their capabilities, it's easy for them to hide their tracks and change their appearances. Therefore, even the power of the immortal kingdoms may not be able to track them down. Princess Scarlet Rainbow stood up and said, I'll return to the Yan Yang Immortal Kingdom right away and discuss this matter with Brother Qingqing personally. No matter what, we'll do our best. I'll accompany her back. We'll inform you as soon as there's any news or clues. Yang Ruoxu stood up to bid farewell as well. Thank you, both of you. Su Zimo bowed once more in thanks. Chapter 2449, 2449 Letter. 2449 Letter. Yang Ruoxu and Princess Scarlet Rainbow stood up and left. Lu Ping, who was chatting idly with Tao Yao behind the cave abode, had naturally noticed it long ago. However, he wanted to stay here and pretended not to know. Su Zimo smiled and did not do anything. After pondering for a moment, Su Zimo came to the table and took out a white letter, writing solemnly. Thereafter, he took out a storage bag with 100 million essence spirit stones and placed the letter inside, sealing it with his spirit consciousness. Tao Yao, Lu Ping. Su Zimo called out. When the two children approached, Su Zimo handed the storage bag to Lu Ping. Take Tao Yao to the teleportation hall of the academy and familiarize him with the surroundings. After arriving at the teleportation hall, head to the Zhixian Immortal Kingdom immediately and hand this storage bag to Princess Yunzhu personally. Tao Yao was extremely unfamiliar with the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain and naturally could not complete this task. However, he could familiarize himself with things by following Lu Ping around. Tao Yao nodded in confusion. Lu Ping, on the other hand, was delighted and beamed. He knew that the reason why Su Zimo had such an arrangement was because Su Zimo acknowledged him. This is a simple task, just sending a letter. Don't worry, senior brother. Lu Ping extended his hand and patted his chest, swearing. The contents of the letter were naturally to ask Yunzhu for help to look for perfected Immortal Burial Knight and Feng Zi. Su Zimo would still feel worried if he merely asked Prince Qingqing for help. Among the three immortal kingdoms, the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom was irreconcilable with him and he naturally could not count on them. Apart from the Yan Yang Immortal Kingdom, the Zhixian Immortal Kingdom was the only one left. As for Yunzhu, she was the princess of the Zhixian Immortal Kingdom. Furthermore, as one of the four great fairies, her status in her immortal kingdom was much higher compared to Prince Qingqing. If Yunzhu could use the power of the Zhixian Immortal Kingdom, the chances of her finding Feng Zi and perfected Immortal Burial Knight would be much higher. If it was just a simple message, there was naturally no need for such trouble. However, Su Zimo had also prepared 100 million Essence Spirit Stones. If he wanted to send the Essence Spirit Stones and letter to Yunzhu, he could only rely on a personal delivery by people. Princess Yunzhu, Yunzhu. Lu Ping pulled Tao Yao and was about to leave when he stopped in his tracks and frowned, muttering, "Why does that name sound so familiar?" Su Zimo said, "She's also known as the Book Immortal." Ah! Lu Ping was enlightened and his face was filled with surprise. That explains it. Who is the Book Immortal? Is she very famous? Tao Yao blinked and asked. She's way too famous. In fact, she's practically renowned. Lu Ping said, the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain has the four great fairies and they are all famous throughout the entire heavenly world. Countless paragons, monster incarnates and even more secretly admire them. One of the four great fairies is the Book Immortal. Right, a legacy disciple of our Heaven and Earth Academy is also one of the four great fairies, the Painting Immortal. I'll tell you more in detail along the way. All right. Tao Yao nodded and his eyes shone with interest. Lu Ping seemed to have thought of something and was suddenly troubled. Senior brother, I just realized. Given Book Immortal Yunzhu's status, she's not someone whom we can meet casually. Furthermore, to hand this storage bag over personally, this. Lu Ping was right. The 4 great fairies were extremely famous and were top-tier experts among the perfected immortals. At their level, there was no way they could meet with such people. Su Zimo said casually, "It's fine. Head to the Zixian Immortal Kingdom. If anyone really stops you, just mention my name." Huh? Lu Ping was stunned for a moment. However, he reacted quickly and approached Su Zimo mysteriously, asking with raised brows, "Senior brother, could it be that you've already hooked up with Book Immortal Yunju? Get lost." Su Zimo glared at him angrily and hollered. Lu Ping did not dare to say anything more and hurriedly pulled Tao Yao out of the cave abode. After the two of them walked far away, Lu Ping said to Tao Yao, "Senior brother seemed like he was angry out of embarrassment earlier on. I'm guessing that he should be courting Book Immortal Yunju. However, I don't think there's any hope for this." Lu Ping pouted. "Do you know? Senior brother has a bad relationship with one of the Book Immortal's younger brothers. How could she agree to date him under such circumstances? I think there's a high chance that the two of us will be kicked out when we arrive." Lu Ping brought Tao Yao towards the teleportation hall of the academy. Occasionally, when they passed by any location or structure in the academy, he would introduce them to Tao Yao. The distance from Su Zimo's cave abode to the teleportation hall of the academy was less than 15 minutes at most. The two of them dawdled and it took more than 4 hours. After arriving at the teleportation hall of the academy, Lu Ping and Tao Yao activated the teleportation formation and headed straight for the Zixian Immortal Kingdom. Before long, the two of them descended at the teleportation formation of the Zixian Immortal Kingdom. After finding the guards around the teleportation formation, Lu Ping took out his sect badge and explained his intentions to a guard. "You guys want to see Princess Yunju?" The guard had a strange expression as he sized up the two children, Lu Ping and Tao Yao, feeling amused. Who was Princess Yunju? There was no way they could meet the Book Immortal of the 4 great fairies just like that. Even these guards would not get the chance to take a look at her true appearance, let alone outsiders. If not for the fact that Lu Ping and Tao Yao were from Heaven and Earth Academy and looked like harmless boys, the guard would have kicked them out a long time ago. "Follow me." The guard brought Lu Ping and Tao Yao to a hall. "Wait here. I'll go report this." The guard had just walked out of the hall when he saw a young man passing by not far away. He bowed hurriedly and greeted in an excited manner, "Greetings, Prince Yunting." Prince Yunting and Princess Yunju were the pride of the Zixian Immortal Kingdom. Every cultivator of the Zixian Immortal Kingdom admired the two of them deeply. Yunting glanced at that person and nodded slightly. Thereafter, as though he sensed something, his gaze shifted and landed on Tao Yao in the hall. Yunting narrowed his eyes slightly and thought to himself, "What a pure and clean aura." "Who's inside?" Yunting asked. "Prince." The guard said hurriedly, "The two boys are from Heaven and Earth Academy and said that they want to see Princess Yunju. They have something to hand to her personally." "Oh." In a flash, Yunting entered the hall and looked at Lu Ping and Tao Yao. His entrance into the hall brought about an extremely strong pressure. It was as though sharpness was everywhere in the hall and the atmosphere was tense. Lu Ping and Tao Yao could not sit still and stood up instinctively. "If you have anything, hand it over to me." Yunting raised his head slightly and said indifferently, "I'll bring it to my sister. The two of you can head back directly." Chapter 2450, 2450 Personal Badge. 2450 Personal Badge. This is bad, this is bad. Lu Ping's face was ashen as he sent a voice transmission to Tao Yao's spirit consciousness. "Our luck is way too bad. To think that we would bump into senior brother's sworn enemy." Initially, Lu Ping intended to obey Su Zimo and mention his name when he saw that the situation was bad. But now that he bumped into Prince Yunting, there was no way Lu Ping would dare to mention Su Zimo's name. If Prince Yunting knew that they were sent by Su Zimo, he would probably cripple the two of them with a single slash. Just as Lu Ping was about to remind Tao Yao, the latter spoke. "Fellow Daoist, our young master said that he wants us to hand the item over to Princess Yunju personally." Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat. He knew how terrifying Yunting was, but Tao Yao did not know Yunting's background. Yunting could be considered as the #1 sword Dao expert of the younger generation in the 9-firmament immortal domain and even the heavenly world. The sword Dao was extremely lethal. Those who were accomplished in the sword Dao were decisive to kill, who would dare to provoke or disobey them. Yunting raised his brows slightly and a sharp glint gradually gathered in his eyes. He glared at Tao Yao and said slowly, "Do you think that my sister is someone you can casually meet?" However, Tao Yao had a serious expression and looked at Yunting without backing down. Yunting let out an impatient expression and said coldly, "I'll say it again. Hand it over or I'll send you guys on your way. My young master's name is Su Zimo." Tao Yao seemed to have thought of something and continued. "It's over." Lu Ping had a long face and a sorrowful expression, waiting for a calamity to descend. "Su Zimo." Unexpectedly, Yunting frowned when he heard those words. The sharpness in his eyes gradually dissipated and the pressure that enveloped the two of them vanished as well. Indeed, Yunting regarded Su Zimo as his greatest enemy in life. However, he wanted to fight Su Zimo openly to determine the victor. Back then, when Yunting went to the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom and challenged Su Zimo personally, outsiders thought that the two of them were at odds and were irreconcilable. However, in reality, there was no deep feud between the two of them. In the depths of Yunting's heart, he had extreme respect towards Su Zimo as an opponent instead. What does he want to give my sister? Although Yunting was puzzled, he no longer made things difficult for Tao Yao and Lu Ping. "The two of you, follow me. We're actually fine." Lu Ping broke out in cold sweat but realized that it was only a false alarm. Tao Yao still had a calm expression and did not know that he had just experienced danger. He merely thought that he had to complete what Su Zimo entrusted him to do. Yunting brought Tao Yao and Lu Ping along smoothly and no one dared to stop them. Before long, they arrived at the palace's library and arrived at a room within. "Sister?" Yunting stood at the door and knocked, calling out softly. "Come in." A warm voice sounded from within. Yunting pushed the door open and entered with Tao Yao and Lu Ping. In the room, a plain-robed woman sat on a bamboo chair with an ancient book in her hands. She browsed through it carefully without raising her head. Lu Ping looked at the woman curiously. This was the book Immortal? The plain-robed woman lowered her head and her features could not be seen clearly. However, she exuded a unique aura and the fragrance of books was intoxicating. "What is it?" Yunju did not raise her head. As though Yunting's appearance was not as important as the ancient book in her hands, she merely asked casually. Yunting said, "Two Dao children from Heaven and Earth Academy came to look for you. They said that Su Zimo had something and wanted them to hand it to you personally." Yunju raised her head and looked towards Tao Yao and Lu Ping. Instantly, Lu Ping was stunned but he composed himself quickly. Yunju's gaze swept past Lu Ping and landed on Tao Yao's face. She paused for a moment in deep thought. "What's that?" "Hand it over." Yunju smiled gently. Lu Ping hurried forward and handed Yunju the storage bag. Yunting was surprised and asked, "Sister, you're acquainted with Su Zimo?" "Of course," Yunju said as she received the storage bag. Yunting was puzzled. "Sister, you usually live in seclusion. How did he get the chance to know you?" Yunju smiled without saying anything. Her spirit consciousness moved and erased the seal on her storage bag, opening it to take a look. She was not moved by the 100 million essence spirit stones. With a calm expression, she took out the letter and browsed through it. When Yunting saw that his sister did not reply and instead took out a letter to read, he was even more curious. He could not help but lean over and poke his head out to ask, "Sister, what's written here?" Move away. Yunju waved her robes gently and pushed Yunting far away. Humph. It must be something shameful if I'm not allowed to see it. Yunting harumphed to express his displeasure, but he did not dare to advance further. After reading the letter, Yunju put it away and took out a blank letter. She picked up the brush beside her and wrote seriously. There seemed to be an invisible barrier beside Yunju. Even when Yunting released his spirit consciousness, he could not scan it and naturally could not see what Yunju wrote on the letter. As Yunju wrote, she paused occasionally to think. After a while, she raised her head and looked at Tao Yao, asking in a seemingly casual manner, "What's your name? You don't seem to be from the academy, right?" Tao Yao said, "My name is Tao Yao. I've just started serving my young master and have yet to join Heaven and Earth Academy." A smile appeared in Yunju's eyes but disappeared quickly. She asked again, "How has your young master been recently?" "Pretty good." Tao Yao replied honestly. Yunting raised his brow and asked, "What realm has he cultivated to?" Tao Yao said, "Grade 5 Heaven Immortal." "Oh." Yunting was slightly surprised and nodded. Not bad, not too slow. By now, Yunju had already written the letter. She placed it in the storage bag with 100 million essence spirit stones and sealed it. Yunju beckoned to Tao Yao. "Take this storage bag back and hand it over to your young master personally." "All right." Tao Yao replied obediently. Yunju removed a green badge from her waist and handed it to Tao Yao, saying gently, "Keep this badge. If your young master entrusts you with anything in the future, just come and meet me using this badge." "Thank you, Princess." Tao Yao did not decline and expressed his thanks. Lu Ping's eyes widened and his jaws nearly dropped to the ground. What was the meaning of this? Is there something going on between senior brother Su and the Book Immortal? Yunting could not help but shout as well, "Sister, how can you give away your personal badge so casually?" Yunju ignored him and merely looked at Tao Yao warmly. Tao Yao was about to put the green badge into his storage bag when Yunju smiled and shook her head. She pointed to Tao Yao's empty waist and said, "Hang it outside. This badge doesn't look bad, right?" "Yes, it's quite good looking." Tao Yao nodded vigorously and tied the badge to his waist. "You guys can head back." Yunju said, "Everything I want to say is in that letter." Tao Yao and Lu Ping bid farewell. Yunting's mind was filled with questions. Just as he was about to step forward and ask, he saw Yunju wave her palm and chase him out of the room. With a bang, the door was shut. Is she even my biological sister? How can she turn against me? Yunting cursed internally before leaving in a huff. Chapter 2451, 2451 Primeval Body. 2451 Primeval Body. Heaven and Earth Academy. Su Zimo held the Bodhi seed and continued to comprehend the Pure Jade Manual. It had to be said that the Bodhi seed was indeed extremely helpful to him in terms of enlightenment. With the help of the Bodhi seed, the obscure words and Dharmic Tao of the Pure Jade Manual became much clearer. As expected of a taboo mystic classic. To think that there would be such a change after cultivating it to greater mastery. Su Zimo comprehended the true meaning of the Dharmic Tao in the Pure Jade Manual and could not help but feel emotional. The Three Pure Ones Jade Manual focused on different aspects of cultivation. Back in the secret ground, Ying Tian once said that the Supreme Pure Jade Manual refined the spirit, the Pure Jade Manual tempered the body while the Grand Pure Jade Manual refined techniques. The Dharmic formulation of the Pure Jade Manual was indeed a supreme body tempering technique. If he cultivated it successfully, his flesh, bones and organs would be filled with a green glow. If he could cultivate it to greater mastery, he could use the Pure Jade Manual as a foundation to condense a primeval body that was the same as his cultivation realm. This was different from his previous cloning techniques. Be it the Green Lotus True Body, Dragon Phoenix True Body or the Martial Tao Prime Body, they could cultivate on their own and possess their own essence, spirit and physical bodies. As for this primeval body, it was a clone condensed from the dermic Tao of the pure jade manual. Among the dermic Taos of the human race, there were three most famous cloning techniques: the three corpses technique of the fiend's sects, the three bodies of past, present and future of the Buddhist monasteries, as well as the supreme technique of the immortal sect, the three pure ones. And now, Su Zimo had obtained one of the three pure ones. The upper world was vast and civilized with countless dermic Taos. Be it humans or other races, they had some cloning techniques that had been passed down till this day. The reason why the cloning technique of the three pure ones was so powerful and was known as the supremacy of the immortal sects was because the clone that was condensed with the three pure ones technique was at the same cultivation realm as the cultivator. This was extremely important. For most cloning techniques, the cultivation realms of the clones condensed would often decrease and their combat strength would be greatly reduced. As for clones condensed by the three pure ones technique, although their combat strength would be reduced as well, their cultivation realms would be identical. Furthermore, the pure jade manual was a body tempering technique to begin with. The primeval body that was condensed would also become unusually strong and ferocious in melee combat. In a fight, releasing this cloning technique would be equivalent to surrounding an opponent with two selves. Who in the same cultivation realm could withstand it? This primeval body could only be released with the pure jade manual. Therefore, over the years, every time the three pure ones jade manual appeared, many paragons would fight for it. If one possessed the three pure ones dermic Tao without the three pure ones jade manual, they would not be able to release the three pure ones clone as well. More importantly, this was only a clone's secret skill that was formed from dermic Tao. Even if the clone was destroyed in the battle, it did not matter. As long as the pure jade manual was around and recovered for a period of time, the primeval body could be released once more. Right then, the sound of clothes fluttering could be heard from outside the cave abode. Before long, Tao Yao and Lu Ping ran in excitedly. Lu Ping was even more enthusiastic as he winked at Su Zimo with a strange smile. Tao Yao went forward and handed the storage bag to Su Zimo. Young master, the princess did not take this storage bag. However, she replied with a letter inside. Su Zimo noticed that there was a green badge on Tao Yao's waist that emitted a faint fragrance. Young master, this was given to me by that beautiful princess. Can I carry it with me? Tao Yao asked expectantly. Of course. Su Zimo smiled and opened his storage bag, taking out Yunju's letter. At a glance, Yunju's handwriting was elegant and her strokes were agile and carefree. Through those words, it was as though one could see a graceful figure dancing on the letter. However, Su Zimo's expression changed the moment he saw the first sentence and he broke out in cold sweat. Fellow Daoist desolate marshal, I heard about what you did in Langfeng City. Impressive, impressive. There was even a simple drawing of a woman's smiling face behind that sentence. For a moment, Su Zimo felt as though Yunju was sitting opposite him, looking at him with a fake smile. When Lu Ping saw the strange expression on Su Zimo's face, he leaned over curiously and asked, Senior brother, what's written on it? You don't look too good. Su Zimo swept his gaze across. Lu Ping shirked his neck in fear and retreated hurriedly. Su Zimo continued reading. The later contents of the letter were much more normal and did not mention anything about desolate marshal. It was a rough explanation of things to assure him that she would try her best to search for Feng Zi and perfected immortal burial night. However, this matter might take a long time and he had to wait patiently. Su Zimo read the letter and burned it. He looked at Tao Yao and Lu Ping and asked, Tell me everything that happened after you arrived at the Zixian Immortal Kingdom. Don't miss any details. Tao Yao and Lu Ping recounted the entire process in detail. Although Su Zimo was expressionless, he was internally surprised. I was exposed just like this? Su Zimo guessed that Yunju must have seen through him because of Tao Yao. However, wasn't it way too incredible that she was able to deduce his relationship with Desolate Marshal just because of that one single clue? Thankfully, Yun Zhu would most likely not expose this matter, so this would not affect him much. After settling the matter of searching for Feng Zi, Su Zimo was much more relieved and prepared to cultivate in seclusion. The fight for the heaven ranking of the Divine Firmament Immortal meet was about to begin. Back at the 10,000-year meet, before he entered the Heaven Essence realm, Yun Ting was already a Grade 2 Heaven Immortal. Over the years, his cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds. Given Yun Ting's talent and opportunities, his cultivation speed could definitely only be faster than his. If he wanted to obtain the number 1 of the heaven ranking, his cultivation realm had to continue advancing. There were only slightly more than 2,000 years left before the Divine Firmament Immortal meet began and time was running out. Apart from continuing to raise his cultivation in this seclusion, Su Zimo also placed emphasis on the Pure Jade Manual. He wanted to cultivate it to greater mastery as soon as possible and condense the primeval body. Su Zimo was in seclusion in the secret chamber of his cave abode. Due to the Green Lotus true body, the heaven and earth essence qi in his cave abode was far richer than outside. Before long, Lu Ping realized this. When cultivating in Su Zimo's cave abode, the heaven and earth essence qi was even richer than in the legacy ground. That was a little terrifying. Initially, Lu Ping thought that Su Zimo had set up some array formation to gather heaven and earth essence qi. However, before long, he realized that this rich and pure essence qi was definitely not condensed from an array formation. Lu Ping also discovered that his cultivation speed had increased qualitatively when he cultivated in the cave abode. It was not only because the heaven and earth essence qi was richer and purer, but also because there seemed to be a mysterious power affecting everything. After Lu Ping discovered the secret, he vaguely realized that he could not tell anyone about it and kept it secret. Su Zimo was the creation Green Lotus. Be it Lu Ping or Tao Yao, they both possessed plant-type bodies. Cultivating beside the creation Green Lotus was naturally extremely beneficial. Chapter 2452, 2452 Heaven Ranking Prediction. 2452 Heaven Ranking Prediction. Cultivation was long and arduous. After returning from the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain, Su Zimo almost never left his cave abode and spent most of his time cultivating in seclusion. In his cave abode, Tao Yao and Lu Ping helped him deal with many chores and trivial matters of life. That saved him a lot of energy and time. His cultivation realm was also rising steadily. Finally, on this day, he broke through to the level 6 Heaven Essence realm. Looking back, 1,000 years had passed. All these years, be it on the side of Prince Qingsheng or Yun Zhu, there was no news of perfected Immortal Burial Knight and Feng Zi. The longer things dragged on, the slimmer the chances of the two of them being found. Or rather, the chances of the two of them being alive decreased as well. Rising, Su Zimo took a spin around the cave abode. Tao Yao and Lu Ping had gone out for some reason. In the spirit garden in the backyard of the cave abode, there was no activity from the Ashoka tree and immortal willow. Only the immortal peach tree seedling grew gradually and was much thicker than before. However, it was still early for this immortal peach tree to ripen after 10,000 years. Right then, the sound of two figures tearing through the air came from outside the cave abode. In the blink of an eye, they arrived before the cave abode and walked in side by side. It was Tao Yao and Lu Ping. After 1,000 years, their appearances did not change much and they still looked like children. The hair on Lu Ping's head gradually turned silky and thick. His cultivation advanced extremely quickly and he had already broken through from the peak of the level 2 Heaven Essence realm to the level 3 Heaven Essence realm. Before Tao Yao arrived at Heaven and Earth Academy, he was already a Grade 9 Earth Immortal. Right now, his cultivation realm was only slightly lower than Lu Ping and he had already cultivated to the level 2 Heaven Essence realm. Over the years, although Tao Yao did not know many people in the academy, under Lu Ping's lead, he was much more familiar with the environment of the academy. After Tao Yao ascended, he had endured suffering and torture for many years, causing immense damage to his heart. All these years, he had been by Su Zimo's side and was accompanied by Lu Ping. The wounds on his heart were gradually healing and the smiles on his face increased. "Young master, look." Tao Yao raised a book in his hands and handed it to Su Zimo. "What's this?" Su Zimo received the book and asked casually. Lu Ping said, "Senior brother, don't you know? Today is considered as a big day for the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. The heaven ranking prediction of Divine Firmament Palace has officially been announced." "Oh." Su Zimo looked at the book in his hands and opened it slowly. There were rows of incredible Tao titles written on it. "Seems like this is the heaven ranking prediction." Su Zimo smiled. He was no stranger to the heaven ranking prediction. Back at the 10,000-year meet, the Yin-Yang Immortal Kingdom released an Earth ranking prediction in advance. It listed information about many paragons for everyone to take into account. At the same time, Su Zimo was puzzled and asked, "There's still more than 1,000 years to the fight for the heaven ranking at the Divine Firmament Immortal Meet. Why is the heaven ranking prediction released now?" "Senior brother, you're always in seclusion. I'm sure you don't know about the rules of the fight for the heaven ranking, right?" Lu Ping explained, "The fight for the heaven ranking of the Divine Firmament Immortal Meet is not as troublesome as the Earth ranking. There's also the elimination round mechanism. The ranking battle for the heaven ranking will be held directly at the Divine Firmament Immortal Meet. Only cultivators who are listed on the prediction ranking will have a chance to take part in the ranking battle." Su Zimo asked, "What do they judge the prediction ranking based on?" Lu Ping said, "A basic requirement is cultivation realm. For example, people like us with low cultivation realms will definitely not be able to be ranked. Trump cards, opportunities and various other factors will make up for a comprehensive judgment to determine the order of the ranks. Most importantly, one's past battle records will be taken into account." Su Zimo was enlightened. In other words, the remaining 1,000 years will be the final chance for the many heaven immortals of the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. The only way they can get into the final ranking battle for the heaven ranking is if they squeeze themselves into the prediction ranking before the Divine Firmament Immortal Meet. "Exactly." Lu Ping said, "The 1,000 years before the Divine Firmament Immortal Meet is the most lively period in the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. Countless paragons and monster incarnates of the heaven immortal realm will appear and leave the sect one after another to travel everywhere. During this period of time, there will be fights between top paragons almost every year. The names and order on the prediction ranking will also change continuously." Su Zimo nodded to himself. For example, for some paragons who cultivated in seclusion all year round, although their cultivation realms were extremely high and their combat strength was not weak, they were not qualified to enter this prediction ranking without any outstanding battle records, let alone take part in the final heaven ranking battle. In other words, in the next 1,000 years, the top paragons of the various heaven-grade factions of the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain would appear one after another and roam the world. Su Zimo opened the prediction ranking and browsed through it. He swept his gaze casually and suddenly realized that Yunting's name was not at the top of the prediction ranking. Instead, it was third. Who could surpass Yunting? Name, Qin Gu. Level, Grade 9 Heaven Immortal. Identity, Reincarnated Immortal of Mountain Sea Immortal Sect, only successor of the Ancient Moon's Secret Ground, Palace Lord of Thunder God Palace. Su Zimo was secretly speechless. The identity as a reincarnated immortal alone carried a lot of weight. To think that there would be 2 more identities later on. Su Zimo wondered what sort of opportunities this person had encountered. Battle record, 70,000 years ago, as a Grade 7 Heaven Immortal, he crossed 2 minor realms and killed a Grade 9 Heaven Immortal, Xiang Lu. 60,000 years ago, as a Grade 8 Heaven Immortal, he was encircled by 10 heaven immortals in the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain, but he killed 6 of them instead. 40,000 years ago, he edged out a victory against Zhong Feiyu. Evaluation: before reincarnation, he was already a top-tier perfected immortal. Because he failed to break through to the Grotto Heaven realm, he was forced to reincarnate and rose domineeringly without tasting defeat. He obtained the legacy of Mountain Sea Immortal Sect and his combat strength is unparalleled. This person had dozens of battle records and the evaluation of him was extremely high. Second on the heaven ranking prediction. Name, Zhong Feiyu. Level, Grade 9 Heaven Immortal. Identity, Reincarnated Immortal of Flying Immortal Sect, Number 1 Heaven Immortal of the Zhong Clan, Island Master of Blue Flames Island, Successor of Scorched Earth and Young Master of Scarlet Refinement Poison Sect. Su Zimo raised his brows slightly. This was also a reincarnated immortal. Furthermore, he had many identities and backgrounds that Su Zimo had never even heard of. Also, Zhong Feiyu had appeared once in the battle records of Qin Gu, who was at the top of the ranking. This person had dozens of battle records as well. Apart from the battle with Qin Gu where he lost slightly, he won all the other battles and had been famous for many years. Divine Firmament Palace's evaluation of him was extremely high as well and was on par with Qin Gu. Su Zimo said, "Seems like the reason why Yunting is ranked third is because he was outshone by these two reincarnated immortals." That makes sense. Lu Ping said, "The reason why Prince Yunting is ranked third is mainly because his cultivation realm is currently at the grade 8 Heaven Immortal realm and is slightly inferior. Also, Prince Yunting is too young and can be considered as a monster incarnate who has risen in recent years. He has only been famous for a short period of time. If Prince Yunting can break through to become a grade 9 Heaven Immortal, there's a high chance that he can surpass the top two in the ranking." Pausing for a moment, he continued, "However, although Prince Yunting is a grade 8 Heaven Immortal, he's already very powerful and is even suppressing another reincarnated immortal." Chapter 2453, 2453 Number 1 of the Sword Dao. 2453 Number 1 of the Sword Dao. Su Zimo skipped Yunting's information and glanced at the fourth on the prediction ranking. Name, Lai Xian. Level, Grade 9 Heaven Immortal. Identity, Reincarnated Immortal of the Yen Yang Immortal Kingdom. Although this person did not have many identities, he had dozens of battle records and had no losses. More importantly, Divine Firmament Palace had an extremely high evaluation of this person. Before his reincarnation, he obtained the top of the heaven ranking and second on the perfected immortal ranking. It said that he has already cultivated the top cultivation technique of the Yen Yang Immortal Kingdom, the Great Sun Sutra, to its peak. No one has been able to force him to use his full strength and his combat strength is unfathomable. Su Zimo had fought with reincarnated immortals before and knew how strong they were. They might have similar cultivation realms compared to ordinary cultivators. However, reincarnated immortals had lived and cultivated for 2 lives. Their insights, experience, knowledge, judgment of the situation, combat skills, everything surpassed ordinary cultivators by much. In the fight for the Earth ranking back then, there were 2 reincarnated immortals, Tai Hua and Feng Yin. One of them died while the other was severely injured. However, Su Zimo did not win easily either. Furthermore, he was a grade 8 Earth Immortal back then and was only a minor realm away from the 2 reincarnated immortals. If the cultivation realm difference was too great against reincarnated immortals, there would almost be no chance of winning. In reality, reincarnated immortals had always been invincible among their peers. In the previous Earth ranking fight, 2 reincarnated immortals were defeated by a junior such as Su Zimo in succession. This surprised the entire Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. Su Zimo looked back at Yunting, who was in 3rd place after reading the 4th spot on the prediction ranking. Name, Yunting. Level, Grade 8 Heaven Immortal. There's a chance for him to reach Grade 9 before the Divine Firmament Immortal meet. Identity, Prince of the Zhixian Immortal Kingdom, Successor of the Extreme Sword Dao, Successor of the 5 Elements Sword Dao, Successor of the Tripartite Sword Dao, Successor of the 4 Elements Sword Dao, Successor of the Heart Sword Dao, Successor of the Zephyr Thunder Sword Dao and Successor of the Great Void Sword Dao. Su Zimo grinned slightly. It was no wonder why he was lauded as the number 1 of the Sword Dao among the younger generation of the heavenly world. There were more than 10 of such identities alone. Every single identity on it represented an opportunity and encounter. Nobody knew what he had experienced to obtain such inheritances and recognition. What was even more frightening was that the inheritances Yunting obtained were all Sword Dao inheritances. This meant that among all the opportunities he encountered, these predecessors and ancient inheritances of the Sword Dao would all acknowledge his endowment and choose him as their successor. Yunting's talent in the Sword Dao could be considered unprecedented. Behind his identity were his battle records. Wow! Impressive. Su Zimo swept his gaze and could not help but exclaim. The records were dense and there were more than 10,000 words. It took up the most space on the prediction ranking and his 100-odd battles were all victories. After the battle records came the evaluation of him by Divine Firmament Palace. It surpassed the two reincarnated immortals. Inside, there was a statement declaring that if Yunting were to break through to become a grade 9 heaven immortal, his combat strength would be above Qin Gu, Zhong Feiyu, and Lai Xian. If nothing unexpected happened in the fight for the heaven ranking, he would definitely be the top of the heaven ranking this time round. Su Zimo smiled and did not comment. Many years had passed since the two of them last fought. He did not have any confidence against the current Yunting either. Su Zimo continued reading. The top 10 of the prediction ranking were successors of the 3 immortal kingdoms and 4 immortal sections. From that point of view, the 7 heaven-grade factions of the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain truly lived up to their reputation. In the top 10 of the ranking, Su Zimo even caught sight of a familiar name. Fang Qinyun. This was also the only heaven immortal of Heaven and Earth Academy in the prediction ranking. Su Zimo took a casual glance at the information about Fang Qinyun. Compared to the top 4, Fang Qinyun's identity, achievements and evaluation were mediocre and he did not have many highlights. It was not surprising for him to be ranked 10th. Su Zimo pouted. Fang Qinyun is known as the number 1 heaven immortal of the Academy. Yet, his ranking on this prediction ranking is rather average. Lu Ping knew about the feud between Fang Qinyun and Su Zimo. Back when Su Zimo was still in the outer sect, he had a conflict with some people led by Fang Qinyun. However, later on, Su Zimo established the 10th stone step of the Tao Heart Stairs and was accepted as an in-name disciple by the sect master of the academy and his status increased exponentially. That was the reason why there was no direct conflict between the two of them. Lu Ping did not know that Fang Qinyun was the one who schemed behind Yang Ruoxu's serious injuries. In fact, Fang Qinyun even wanted to make use of Yang Ruoxu's injuries to lure Su Zimo away from Heaven and Earth Academy before surrounding and killing the latter. However, later on, that group of people were wiped out by Su Zimo. Even Tang Peng, Fang Qinyun's subordinate, died in Su Zimo's hands. Lu Ping thought for a moment. This is only the prediction ranking. Senior brother Fang's true ranking might be higher. Actually, Lu Ping wanted to remind Su Zimo that his cultivation realm was not high enough and it was not suitable for him to have a conflict with Fang Qinyun right now. Su Zimo remained silent and browsed through the ranking list. Apart from Yunting and Fang Qinyun, there were indeed a few familiar names among the 100 names of the prediction ranking. Yan Bingying was known as the number 1 beauty of the inner sect of the academy and had once admired Fang Qinyun. It was said that over the years, for some unknown reason, the two of them gradually distanced themselves and were no longer as close as before. Yan Bingying was ranked 43 on the prediction ranking and was not weak either. Rank 98 on the prediction ranking, Prince Yuanzhua. When Su Zimo saw that name, he sneered. Prince Yuanzhua truly had some tricks up his sleeves to be able to be ranked in the heaven ranking prediction. Young master, I've seen this ranking list as well. Suddenly, Tao Yao spoke in a serious manner. I feel that this ranking list is not accurate at all. Why? Su Zimo asked with a smile. Your name is not in it. Tao Yao said matter-of-factly. Su Zimo burst into laughter. At the side, Lu Ping rolled his eyes. Tao boy, you don't understand. Senior brother's cultivation speed is indeed very fast. However, this prediction ranking is a competition of combat strength and battle records. There's no way senior brother can be ranked in this prediction ranking when he has just broken through to become a grade 6 heaven immortal. Tao Yao frowned. Why not? There's still 1,000 years before the divine firmament immortal meet. Even if senior brother obtains some huge opportunity in the remaining 1,000 years and breaks through once more to become a grade 7 heaven immortal, it'll be difficult for him to enter this ranking list. Lu Ping explained earnestly, senior brother's cultivation realm is way too inferior. Look at that Prince Yunting. Just because he's only a minor realm away from being a grade 9 heaven immortal, he's suppressed by the 2 reincarnated immortals. Even back when Prince Yunting was a grade 6 heaven immortal, he probably wouldn't have been ranked in this heaven ranking prediction, let alone senior brother. Furthermore, senior brother doesn't have any famous achievements. Tao Yao had a confused expression. Didn't you tell me that young Master Su defeated 2 reincarnated immortals in succession at the 10,000-year meet and obtained the top of the earth ranking? Lu Ping said, this is a fight for the heaven ranking and achievements as earth immortals are not taken into account. The achievements on this ranking list were obtained by these paragons after they advanced to the heaven immortal realm. At this point, Lu Ping suddenly felt like he was undermining his own prestige and said hurriedly, senior brother, I believe in you. In another 100,000 years, you'll definitely be able to enter the top 10 of the heaven ranking prediction for the next heaven ranking fight. Su Zimo smiled and did not refute. Chapter 2454, 2454 Location of Fengzi. 2454 Location of Fengzi. Naturally, Su Zimo would not wait another 100,000 years to take part in the next heaven ranking fight. As Tao Yao had said, anything could happen with 1,000 years left until the divine firmament immortal meet. For him, it was not difficult for him to enter the heaven ranking prediction. His true challenge was the genius of the sword Dao who could possibly cultivate to the peak of the grade 9 heaven immortal realm 1,000 years later, Yun Ting. That was his true opponent. Furthermore, this was the strongest opponent he had encountered in the same cultivation realm since he ascended to the upper world. Right then, a commotion broke out outside the cave abode as someone came to visit. Within the cave abode, there were corresponding projections and crystal balls that could see the situation outside the cave abode. It was clear who was outside. Su Zimo took a glance before retracting his gaze expressionlessly. It was senior sister Mo Qing again. Tao Yao and Lu Ping were not surprised when they saw that the person outside was Mo Qing. Both of them looked at Su Zimo instinctively. Su Zimo remained silent and merely nodded. The 2 Dao children exchanged glances and understood. Lu Ping shrugged his shoulders helplessly and headed out of the cave abode with Tao Yao. Su Zimo remained seated within his cave abode with no intention of heading out to welcome her. All these years, senior sister Mo Qing had visited him almost every 100 years. Ever since Su Zimo realized that senior sister Mo Qing might have some special feelings for the martial Dao prime body, there was no way he would dare to meet her. He merely wanted to avoid her. That was the reason why he hid in his cave abode all these years and rarely went out. Each time senior sister Mo Qing came to visit, he would instruct Tao Yao and Lu Ping to head out and find an excuse to deal with it while avoiding her. Given senior sister Mo Qing's personality, there was naturally no way she would barge into his cave abode. Over the years, even Tao Yao and Lu Ping were used to it. Therefore, they were not surprised to see Mo Qing visit. Su Zimo's thoughts were simple. If he dealt with it like this a few times, senior sister Mo Qing would definitely be able to sense his alienation and would naturally not interact with him again after a long time. Before long, Tao Yao and Lu Ping returned to the cave abode. Senior sister Mo Qing has already left. Lu Ping said. Yes. Su Zimo replied casually. Lu Ping blinked and probed again. Senior brother, senior sister Mo Qing seems to be a little angry this time round. Is that so? Su Zimo's eyes lit up and he heaved a sigh of relief. That's great. Since senior sister Mo Qing was angry, she would definitely not look for him again in the future. Looking at the delighted Su Zimo, Lu Ping was dumbfounded and his jaws nearly dropped to the ground. What in the world was senior brother thinking? Noticing Lu Ping's strange gaze, Su Zimo immediately realized that he had lost his composure. He coughed gently and said in a low voice, "What a pity." Lu Ping rolled his eyes and pulled Tao Yao to the backyard of the cave abode to take a look at the 3 immortal trees. When he arrived at the backyard of the cave abode, Lu Ping whispered, "Tao boy, I reckon that senior brother must have done something to let senior sister Mo Qing down. That must be why he's been hiding from her. What could he have done to let her down?" Tao Yao was puzzled. Lu Ping said, "Actually, it sounds like abandonment after having sex. Do you remember Princess Yunju of the Xian Immortal Kingdom? The book Immortal?" "I remember," Tao Yao nodded. Lu Ping's eyes burned with the flames of gossip. "I feel that something must have happened between senior brother, book Immortal Yunju and senior sister Mo Qing." 3 days later. Once again, someone visited outside the cave abode. This time round, Princess Scarlet Rainbow was alone without Yang Ruoxu accompanying her. Su Zimo went out and welcomed Princess Scarlet Rainbow in. Not long after Su Zimo and Princess Scarlet Rainbow entered the cave abode, a snow-white butterfly suddenly flew out from a cherry blossom not far away. Hidden here, the color of the butterfly was almost one with the cherry blossoms and was impossible to detect. The snow-white butterfly charged toward Su Zimo's cave abode and harumphed angrily before speeding in the direction of the legacy ground of the academy. In the cave abode. The moment Princess Scarlet Rainbow sat down, she said, "Senior brother Su, brother Qingqing has located perfected immortal burial night and Feng Zi." Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he asked hurriedly, "Where are they? Are they alive or dead?" "Both of them are still alive near Tsangyin Mountain." Princess Scarlet Rainbow hesitated for a moment. "However, perfected immortal burial night seems to be severely injured and isn't in a good condition. Feng Zi is taking care of him." Tsangyin Mountain. Su Zimo immediately took out a map of the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain and searched for the location of Tsangyin Mountain. Tsangyin Mountain was not under the rule of the 3 immortal kingdoms and 4 immortal sects and was an ownerless place. "Please help me express my thanks to Brother Qingchang for his assistance. When I'm free, I'll definitely pay a personal visit to express my thanks." Worried about the safety of Feng Zi and perfected immortal burial night, Su Zimo put away the map and was prepared to move to Tsangyin Mountain immediately. "Don't be hasty, let me finish." Princess Scarlet Rainbow held down Su Zimo hurriedly and said in a deep voice, "Brother Qingqing knows about Feng Zi and perfected immortal burial night's capabilities. Therefore, he did not dare to approach them and merely watched from afar. Furthermore, Brother Qingqing discovered that apart from him, the execution guards of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom are also targeting the 2 of them." Su Zimo narrowed his eyes slightly. Perfected immortal experts must have attacked them for perfected immortal burial night to be severely injured. "Exactly," Princess Scarlet Rainbow said, "That's why I told you to wait a little longer and not act rashly. You know about Brother Qingqing's side as well. He's just an ordinary prince and doesn't have the protection of any perfected immortal experts by his side, let alone the capability to mobilize perfected immortal experts of the Yan Yang Immortal Kingdom. He definitely won't be able to defend against the perfected immortal experts of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. Ruoxu already knows about this. He's gathering people at the legacy ground of the academy and trying his best to find a few legacy disciples of the academy to accompany him. We'll go together. That way, even if we encounter perfected immortal experts of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom, we'll have a higher chance of rescuing them still." Taking a deep breath of air, Su Zimo composed himself. There were many variables to this matter and it was indeed impossible for him to deal with it with his strength. Suddenly, Princess Scarlet Rainbow sighed gently. "Ruoxu has just joined the legacy ground and doesn't know many legacy disciples. He might not be able to gather many people." Actually, that was normal. Yang Ruoxu had just entered the perfected one realm and his cultivation was still at the convergence realm. He was at the bottom of the perfected one realm and most of the legacy disciples he knew were also at this realm. Furthermore, there was an indescribable feud between Yang Ruoxu and Sword Immortal Yuhua previously, and many legacy disciples avoided him. Also, this was Su Zimo's business. Apart from Yang Ruoxu, the other legacy disciples had never interacted with Su Zimo before and were unfamiliar with him. For the legacy disciples of the academy, Feng Zi and Perfected Immortal Burial Knight were two complete strangers. Unless necessary, who would run so far away to Tsangyin Mountain to help two complete strangers? Right then, Princess Scarlet Rainbow's expression changed. She took out a messenger jade talisman from her storage bag and stood up. Ruoxu is prepared. Let's go and gather in front of the academy. Chapter 2455, 2455 Why have you been avoiding me? 2455 Why have you been avoiding me? We'll go too. Lu Ping took the initiative to stand out, wanting to follow Su Zimo. No. Su Zimo rejected without hesitation and said in a deep voice, the two of you, just stay in the academy. You're not allowed to go anywhere. The two of them did not have high cultivation realms and it was useless even if they followed. Furthermore, Su Zimo did not want Tao Yao to be at risk again. There was probably no place safer than Heaven and Earth Academy in the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. Young Master, you. Tao Yao had a worried expression and hesitated. Princess Scarlet Rainbow consoled at the side, don't worry, Ruoxu and legacy disciples of the academy will appear this time round. There won't be any danger. This was not Princess Scarlet Rainbow's blind confidence. As one of the 7 heaven-grade factions, legacy disciples of Heaven and Earth Academy could do whatever they wanted in the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain and no one would dare to provoke them. Unless there was a deep feud, conflicts rarely broke out between legacy disciples of the academy and the other heaven-grade factions. Furthermore, even if there was a fight, everyone would rely on their own capabilities and no immortal king would step in to suppress the other party. After all the heaven-grade factions had immortal kings backing them up. If one party took the initiative to break the balance, it would be easy for the situation to escalate or even lose control, turning into a battle at the level of an immortal king. That would not be beneficial for either party. The losses outweighed the gains. For example, on the side of Heaven and Earth Academy, the sect master of the academy presided over everything with his immaculate calculations. In a fight between people of the same cultivation realm, it was naturally inappropriate for the sect master of the academy to interfere. However, if an immortal king were to attack a legacy disciple of the academy, it would be difficult for him to hide from the sect master of the academy. Let's go. Su Zimo said and led the way outside. If necessary, he would not alarm the martial Dao prime body unless he had no other choice. The two true bodies cultivated separately and each of them had different opportunities and dermic Daos. If he had to alarm the martial Dao prime body for everything, there would be no need for him to cultivate this green lotus true body. Furthermore, if the two true bodies appeared at the same place frequently, it would definitely arouse suspicion. The martial Dao prime body had merely gone over to the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain to create a ruckus once 1,000 years ago and a clue was immediately spotted by Book Immortal Yunju. If this happened a few more times, even a simple-minded person like Senior Sister Mo Qing would notice the problem between the two of them. Before long, Su Zimo and Princess Scarlet Rainbow arrived at the entrance of the academy. Yang Ruoxu and 3 legacy disciples were already waiting at the entrance of the mountain. Yang Ruoxu took a step forward and said in a deep voice, "Let me introduce the 3 of them. They are Perfected Immortal Qing Jing, Perfected Immortal Fu Guang and Hua Qing Tian. All of them are senior brothers of the legacy ground." The auras released by the 3 perfected immortals were similar to Yang Ruoxu. If he was not wrong, the 3 of them should be perfected immortals at the convergence realm. Su Zimo did not think too much about it. No matter what, he was already extremely grateful that the 3 senior brothers of the academy were willing to help. "Greetings, senior brothers. I'm Su Zimo." Su Zimo hurried forward and bowed. Although he was the in-name disciple of the sect master of the academy, he had yet to officially join the sect master after all and his status was even beneath legacy disciples. Hua Qingtian and the other two sized up Su Zimo with scrutinizing gazes. You're Su Zimo? Perfected Immortal Qing Jing said in an implying manner, you've been in the limelight in the academy all these years. Su Zimo condensed the 10th stone step, alarmed the 9 great elders, and the sect master of the academy even arrived personally to take him in as an in-name disciple. All of those made him famous in the academy. Although many disciples of the academy had not seen him before, they had all heard of his name. Not really. Su Zimo replied warily. Yang Ruoxu said, let's leave now lest any delays cause things to go wrong. There's no hurry. Hua Qingtian shook his head. There are some things that have to be settled before we go. What do you mean? Yang Ruoxu asked with a frown. Hua Qingtian said, let's not beat around the bush and get straight to the point. It's fine if you want the 3 of us to help. We don't want much. 1 Soraka fruit each. Yang Ruoxu's expression changed as he frowned and asked, Senior brothers, what's the meaning of this? Perfected Immortal Fu Guang smiled. Junior brother Yang, we don't have much of a relationship with Su Zimo. We're just fellow sect mates. It's not overboard to ask for compensation, right? Earlier on at the Legacy Ground, I've already promised to give you enough Essence Spirit Stones as compensation. You guys were agreeable to it as well. Yang Ruoxu suppressed the anger in his heart and said in a deep voice, we're about to set off and yet you guys are requesting for Soraka fruits now. Isn't that way too greedy? Junior brother Yang, watch your words. Hua Qingtian's expression turned cold. Everyone in the academy knows that you're not on good terms with senior brother Yu Hua. The 3 of us are already taking quite a risk to help you. It's only right for us to ask for more compensation. Exactly. Perfected Immortal Fu Guang said, furthermore, this trip is definitely not simple. There might be danger. Otherwise, you could have done it alone. Why look for the 3 of us? Perfected Immortal Qing Jing looked at Su Zimo and chuckled. Junior brother Su, what we want is not overboard. You used the Soraka fruit to save junior brother Yang previously, I'm sure you must have more of it. Princess Scarlet Rainbow was an inner sect disciple after all. Although she was indignant, she could not say anything and merely cursed internally with a cold expression. Suddenly, Su Zimo smiled and nodded. He did not hide anything and said frankly, indeed, I still have Soraka fruits with me. Hua Qingtian and the other 2 were delighted. However, Su Zimo changed the topic and sneered, however, I won't give it to you guys. The expressions of Hua Qingtian and the other 2 darkened. Yang Ruoxu took a step forward and stood opposite Hua Qingtian and the other 2, shouting, that's right, we must not compromise on this matter. Brother Su, don't worry. I don't believe that I alone will be able to save the 2 of them. Actually, it was not that Su Zimo could not bear to part with the Soraka fruits. It was just that the greedy expressions of Hua Qingtian and the other 2 made him feel disgusted. Even if he gave the 3 of them the Soraka fruits now, they would probably demand even more when they arrived. Perfected Immortal Qing Jing sneered, Junior brother Yang, you're only a convergence perfected immortal. Do you really think that you can defend against a massive army? Hua Qingtian glared at Su Zimo coldly and threatened once more, Su Zimo, don't blame us for not giving you a chance. If you fail to save them later on, it'll be too late for regrets. Su Zimo, you're finally out of seclusion. Right then, a woman's voice sounded not far away with a hint of coldness and anger. Everyone looked over and saw a peerless beauty soaring through the air like a fairy that had walked out of a painting. She was elegant and otherworldly, it was painting immortal Mo Qing. When Su Zimo saw senior sister Mo Qing, he panicked and averted his gaze. It was rare for Hua Qingtian and the other 2 to see fairy Mo Qing in the Legacy Ground. They were both surprised and delighted to see her today. At the same time, the 3 of them could sense the suppressed anger on fairy Mo Qing and could not help but sneer secretly, gloating. Since Su Zimo offended senior sister Mo Qing, he was bound to suffer. Yang Ruoxu and Princess Scarlet Rainbow exchanged worried glances. In the blink of an eye, Mo Qing arrived before Su Zimo and glared at him angrily. Gritting her teeth, she clenched her fists and questioned, "Why have you been avoiding me all these years?" When the onlookers heard that, they were stunned and dumbfounded. Chapter 2456, 2456 What has this got to do with you? 2456 What has this got to do with you? Wait a minute. What was going on? Hua Qingtian and the other two were a little stunned and their eyes were filled with disbelief. Senior sister Mo Qing did look angry. However, her tone coupled with her words earlier on sounded a little bitter. Painting immortal Mo Qing, one of the four great fairies, was obsessed with the Tao of painting and had an indifferent personality. In everyone's hearts, she was a fairy who was high and mighty and untainted by the mortal world. How could she reveal such an attitude? However, her current attitude made her even more attractive for Hua Qingtian and the others. Originally, the painting immortal was someone who could only be seen from afar and could not be blasphemed. But now, senior sister Mo Qing seemed to have descended to the mortal world and became much more realistic when she came to their side. What did Su Zimo mean by his actions? He was deliberately avoiding personal visits by senior sister Mo Qing. If it was anyone else, they would be so excited that they would not be able to sleep for days. But soon, Hua Qingtian and the other two thought of a possibility. Everyone in the academy knew that senior brother Yu Hua had admired senior sister Mo Qing for a long time. Su Zimo must have avoided senior sister Mo Qing because he was afraid of senior brother Yu Hua's reputation. At that thought, Hua Qingtian and the other two could not help but lament internally, Su Zimo sure is smart. If he were to get too close to senior sister Mo Qing, he would definitely end up in a tragic state. Yang Ruoxu and Princess Scarlet Rainbow had strange expressions as well. The two of them exchanged glances. Although they did not say anything, they were telepathic and could understand the message in each other's eyes. Ruoxu, senior brother Su and senior sister Mo Qing look like. I finally understand. Back at the immortal sect selection and outer sect of the academy, senior sister Mo Qing attacked twice. It was not for me, but brother Su. That does make sense. This misunderstanding caused me to be hated by senior brother Yu Hua for so long for no reason. Even now, senior brother Yu Hua gives me dirty looks each time he sees me. If senior brother Yu Hua knew that he hated the wrong person, he would probably explode from anger, hee. Both of them thought of this at the same time and were secretly worried for Su Zimo. Although Su Zimo was an in-name disciple, his combat strength was far inferior to Sword Immortal Yu Hua. Furthermore, Sword Immortal Yu Hua had cultivated in Heaven and Earth Academy for many years and the reputation and faction he had accumulated was far from what Su Zimo could compare to. Because of Fairy Mo Qing's words, the entire scene fell into a strange calmness, as though time had stopped. Yang Ruoxu coughed gently and broke the silence. Is there some misunderstanding? Su Zimo snapped out of his stupor and explained hurriedly, Senior sister Mo Qing, I'm truly sorry. I've been cultivating a secret skill in seclusion all these years and can't interrupt it. I wasn't avoiding you intentionally. The moment Mo Qing said that, she realized that she had lost her composure. Actually, in the beginning, she did not think too much about it when she went to look for Su Zimo to no avail. She merely thought that Su Zimo was cultivating in seclusion and could not be distracted. However, after being rejected 7 to 8 times in succession, no matter how naive she was, she realized what was going on and could not help but feel frustrated. Initially, she intended to ignore Su Zimo from now on as well. However, the more she thought about it, the angrier she became. Unable to calm down, she visited again, wanting to confront Su Zimo and ask him about it. 3 days ago, after she failed again, she specially left the ice butterfly near Su Zimo's cave abode to observe in secret. Indeed. After 3 days, Princess Scarlet Rainbow paid a visit and Su Zimo came out to welcome her personally. Mo Qing had endured for more than 1,000 years. Now that she finally caught sight of Su Zimo, she naturally had to come over and ask him about it. She only realized that there were outsiders present after she asked her question. As such, she realized that she had overreacted and regretted it immediately. Although she knew that Su Zimo's explanation earlier on was still perfunctory, she did not say anything more. "You're lying." Unexpectedly, the ice butterfly on Mo Qing's shoulder suddenly spoke in human tongue. "I saw everything. Right after you rejected us, you went out to welcome others in a lively manner just 3 days later." The corners of Su Zimo's mouth twitched. He endured the urge to step forward and squeeze the butterfly to death as he laughed awkwardly. What a coincidence. "I just came out of seclusion, Fufu." The ice butterfly wanted to continue asking and help Mo Qing vent her anger. However, Mo Qing said, "Little butterfly, that's enough. We'll talk about this in the future." When he saw Mo Qing give up on asking, Su Zimo felt relieved and wiped his sweat secretly. "Where are you guys going?" Mo Qing asked calmly. At the mention of that, Su Zimo's expression turned solemn as he said in a deep voice, "2 of my old friends are in danger and I'm prepared to head over to help." At this point, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. If senior sister Mo Qing could step in, she would be more than 100 times stronger than Hua Qingtian and the other 2. Hua Qingtian and the other 2 were merely convergence perfected immortals. Senior sister Mo Qing had long cultivated to become a hollow nether perfected immortal. The 4 levels of the perfected immortal realm: convergence, celestial being, hollow nether and paradise void. Senior sister Mo Qing was only a step away from the final paradise void realm. At that thought, Su Zimo asked, "Senior sister Mo Qing, I wonder if you're free. Do you want to follow us over to take a look?" Mo Qing did not reply and merely looked at Su Zimo quietly with a fake smile. That gaze caused Su Zimo to panic. The ice butterfly harumphed and said proudly, "No, we're not free. We still have to cultivate in seclusion and can't be distracted." Hua Qingtian sneered as well and mocked, "Junior brother Su, all these years, you've been avoiding senior sister Mo Qing on purpose. Now that you've encountered something, you're asking for help instead. Aren't you way too shameless?" "You said that we're shameless. I think you're the one who's truly shameless." Su Zimo shrugged his shoulders. This time round, he did not refute. Actually, he regretted it the moment he asked that question. "What has this got to do with you?" Suddenly, Mo Qing spoke and glared at Hua Qingtian coldly. Hua Qingtian's expression froze and he was stunned by Mo Qing's words, not knowing what to say for a moment. Mo Qing ignored him and took out a Yakatabun from her storage bag. She turned to Su Zimo. "Come on." The Yakatabun expanded rapidly in midair, forming a spirit vessel that emitted a faint fragrance that was intoxicating. "Thank you, senior sister." Su Zimo was delighted and expressed his thanks hurriedly before boarding the exquisite and beautiful Yakatabun spirit vessel. "Brother Yang, Princess Scarlet Rainbow, come up too." When Su Zimo turned back and saw that Yang Ruoxu and Princess Scarlet Rainbow were still rooted on the spot, he called out instinctively. Yang Ruoxu looked hesitant. Su Zimo did not know, but Yang Ruoxu did. Painting immortal Mo Qing's Yakatabun was not something that everyone could enter. At the very least, up till now, even sword immortal Yu Hua did not have the chance. "Come on up. I'll control the Yakatabun so that it can be faster." Mo Qing said indifferently without looking at Yang Ruoxu and Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Yang Ruoxu and Princess Scarlet Rainbow exchanged glances and heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, they leaped onto the Yakatabun spirit vessel. Swoosh! The Yakatabun spirit vessel transformed into a divine light and disappeared in front of Heaven and Earth Academy in the blink of an eye. Hua Qingtian and the other 2 were left in a mess, sniffing the fragrance of the Yakatabun with envious expressions. Chapter 2457, 2457 Ju Wuying. 2457 Ju Wuying. Sangyin Mountain. At the foot of the mountain, there was a short and simple straw hut. A special smell came from within, like medicinal herbs mixed with the smell of blood. Z, leave now. Don't bother about me. In the room, an old man leaned against the head of the bed with a pale expression. He said weakly, I feel uneasy. I can already smell the scent of danger. The old man was severely injured and his blood chi was depleted, his combat strength was completely gone. However, he had cultivated for many years and felt an inexplicable sense of danger, as though it was his instinct. Master, recuperate in peace. We'll leave together when the time comes. A purple-robed woman knelt in front of the old man and whispered with a lowered head. The two of them were perfected immortal burial knight and Feng Zi. Although Feng Zi's head was lowered, perfected immortal burial knight could still sense the sadness in her heart. Cough, cough, cough. Z, don't be sad. Perfected immortal burial knight let out a violent cough and his breathing was heavy. I know my body's condition. I won't be able to recover. I don't have much lifespan to begin with. Even if I'm not injured, I won't be able to live for more than a few years. Right now, I'm just leaving slightly earlier. The lifespan of a perfected immortal is 500,000 years. Ever since I ascended, I had a glorious time with your grandfather in the divine firmament immortal domain. I was only a step away from achieving greatness. I'm satisfied with the life I had. However, it's a pity that I won't be able to assist Brother Feng in the fiend domain from now on. Feng Zi was expressionless. She had lost her parents at a very young age. Furthermore, she had witnessed them die with her own eyes. That caused an irrecoverable wound in her heart. Ever since then, she had been silent. Coupled with the fact that she cultivated many cultivation techniques of hidden death sect, she became even colder and guarded against everyone. She seemed to have lost her ability to feel fear, sadness, laughter, and everything else. Even though she was sad at the moment and was unwilling to leave, she did not reveal any emotions. She merely guarded perfected immortal burial knight obstinately. That was despite the fact that she knew the two of them would be in greater danger the longer they stayed here. Suddenly, perfected immortal burial knight sighed. Brother Feng, back when you were trapped in Absolute Thunder City, I did not manage to protect Yunzhou and Xuansu well. All these years, I've always felt guilty. Master, it's not your fault. At the mention of those two names, Feng Zi felt as though her heart was pierced by something. Feng Yunzhou and Lu Xuansu were her parents. Perfected immortal burial knight said, Zi, head to the fiend domain. Go now. With Brother Feng around, he'll definitely be able to protect you completely. You're his last and only kin in this world. None of you will leave today. Right then, a voice sounded from outside the house. It was a little cold and its direction was unpredictable, as though it was omnipresent. When he heard that voice, perfected immortal burial knight's expression changed slightly and he clenched his fists instinctively. Suddenly, a violent gust of wind blew past and the straw hut collapsed. Feng Zi conjured a ball of essence chi and protected perfected immortal burial knight. Before long, the dust dispersed. Dozens of figures stood in midair with powerful auras. Although their positions seemed relaxed, they had already surrounded the place. Their leader wore a bamboo hat and a black cloth covered his face, revealing only a pair of long and cold eyes. It was Zhu Wuying, one of the three great sword immortals of the divine firmament immortal domain. In the distant horizon, thousands of heaven execution guards were speeding over and were about to arrive. When he saw that lineup, perfected immortal burial knight's eyes were filled with despair. There was no chance. Even in his peak condition, it would be difficult for him and Feng Zi to escape from such an encirclement. Perfected immortal burial knight held his breath and stood up slowly. He looked at the bamboo hat man in the lead in midair and said, Zhu Wuying, I'll leave my life in your hands today. However, on account that we were once master and disciple, please spare her life. This child is only a grade 3 heaven immortal. She's not a threat to you at all. Perfected immortal burial knight looked at Feng Zi beside him and panted. Master, there's no need to beg him. Feng Zi said expressionlessly. Don't worry about that. At the very least, she won't die now. Zhu Wuying said, we'll use her to lure Feng Cantian out. At that time, we'll send the two of them on their way. Zhu Wuying was emotionless as well when he spoke. Zhu Wuying. Perfected Immortal Burial Knight took a deep breath and suddenly hollered, back then, I saved you because I saw that you were pitiful. Your skills were all imparted by me. To think that you would be such an ungrateful dog who would betray your master for glory. If you had not betrayed Remnant Knight back then, how would Xuanzu have fallen into the hands of the great Jin Immortal Kingdom? In that battle, Yunzhou would not have lost to the heir of King Jin as well. Zhu Wuying wore a mask and a bamboo hat so no one could see his face. However, his long and narrow eyes that were exposed became even sharper. Zhu Wuying said, old thing, you guys were way too naive and laughable back then. To think that you would want to create Remnant Knight to fight against the great Jin Immortal Kingdom. I'll definitely not do something like striking a stone with an egg. You guys had a death wish, but not me. When Perfected Immortal Burial Knight heard that, he could not help but curse, ungrateful dog thief, you won't have a good ending. Is that so? Zhu Wuying said indifferently, unfortunately, you won't be able to see it. I'll kill you first today. Hold on. Right then, a voice sounded. Immediately after, hundreds of cultivators sped over. Although their leader was a man, he was extremely good-looking. It was Xia Qingqing of the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom. He had been watching in the vicinity a long time ago but did not appear. His hundreds of cultivators were all heaven immortal experts and none of them were perfected immortals. Compared to the side of the great Jin Immortal Kingdom, the difference in strength was immense. That was the reason why he did not appear right away. But now that Perfected Immortal Burial Knight was in danger, Xia Qingqing couldn't care less and could only grit his teeth and stand out. If he was not wrong, the people from Heaven and Earth Academy should be rushing over. He had to buy as much time as possible. It's best not to be a busybody if you're unrelated. Zhu Wuying glanced at Xia Qingqing and said coldly. He had long noticed Xia Qingqing and the others but did not expose them. That was because these people were nothing and posed no threat to him. Xia Qingqing smiled gently and cupped his fists towards the perfected immortal experts of the great Jin Immortal Kingdom, declaring loudly, I'm Xia Qingqing, a prince of the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom. I'm here for something important. I want to invite Perfected Immortal Burial Knight and Miss Feng to make a trip to the capital of the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom's capital. Perfected Immortal Burial Knight and Feng Zi glanced at Xia Qingqing in confusion. The two of them did not know this good-looking prince at all and did not know why he would suddenly appear. Furthermore, Xia Qingqing seemed to be on their side. There's no need to mention the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom or your title as a prince. Zhu Wuying said indifferently, you don't even have a single perfected immortal by your side. If I'm not wrong, you're just an idle prince. Although Xia Qingqing's expression was unchanged after being seen through, he lamented internally. Chapter 2458, 2458 So noisy. 2458 So noisy. Immortal King Yan Yang had many concubines and many descendants. It was said that there were hundreds of them. Anyone with the royal bloodline could be conferred the title of prince or princess. However, the difference in status between the princes was extremely obvious. The Great Jin Immortal Kingdom had a total of 16 counties and more than 1,000 immortal cities. The Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom had 23 counties and more than 2,000 cities. Only princes who ruled over a county could be considered as princes with true power in the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom. As for the other princes and princesses, they merely had a title of idle princes and princesses. Back then, Xia Tianhong, who died in the hands of the martial Dao Prime Body, was the prince who presided over Spirit Cloud County. He was extremely powerful and not only did he have perfected immortal experts guarding him, he could also mobilize a certain number of perfected immortals. As for idle princes like Xia Qingqing, they could only mobilize some heaven immortals at most, let alone perfected immortal experts of the immortal kingdoms. The situation of the three immortal kingdoms was similar. For example, in the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom, if the position of a prince with authority was vacated, Immortal King Yan-Yang would even let his descendants fight among themselves to choose the most outstanding successors. It was because the difference in status between idle princes and princes who truly controlled territories was great that Zhu Wuying did not take Xia Qingqing seriously. "Take Feng Zi away and leave that old thing for me," Zhu Wuying said coldly. The execution guards below obeyed and surrounded Feng Zi. Xia Qingqing frowned and took a deep breath. He led the hundreds of heaven immortals behind him and shielded Feng Zi and perfected immortal burial night from the execution guards. "Xia Qingqing, don't test my patience," Zhu Wuying said. "I'll say it again. Don't be a busybody." Xia Qingqing smiled. "Exalted immortal Wuying, please show mercy and let them live. I guarantee that they will definitely not appear in the divine firmament immortal domain in the future. Watch out." Right then, perfected immortal burial night suddenly reminded. Before Xia Qingqing could react, he felt a sharp pain in his chest and spat out an arrow of blood. His blood qi deteriorated rapidly. Xia Qingqing clutched his chest and grunted. Nobody saw Zhu Wuying attack. However, his chest was pierced and his heart exploded. Furthermore, there was still a remnant wisp of true essence sword qi left behind by Zhu Wuying, preventing the wound from healing within a short period of time. Xia Qingqing's body trembled slightly and his face was pale. He was already sweating profusely. However, he forced a smile. As expected of one of the three great sword immortals. Your shadowless sword was completely silent and without any traces. This is just a lesson for you. Zhu Wuying looked down at Xia Qingqing with his long and narrow eyes. If there's a next time, I'll pierce your essence spirit with my sword. So, Zhu Wuying of the three great sword immortals of divine firmament is someone who bullies the weak. Right then, accompanied by that voice, an exquisite Eucatabean spirit vessel tore through the air and arrived before them in the blink of an eye. On the Eucatabean stood three people, 2 men and a woman. Xia Qingqing felt slightly relieved when he saw who it was. "Z, look." A glint flashed through the hazy eyes of perfected immortal burial night when he caught sight of someone on the Eucatabean. "It's him." Feng Zi glanced sideways and her heart stirred when she saw the green-robed scholar on the Eucatabean. The three people on the Eucatabean were Su Zimo, Yang Ruoxu and Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Heaven and Earth Academy? Zhu Wuying swept his gaze across the sect badges on the waists of Su Zimo and the others and murmured softly with an unchanged expression. "Brother Qingqing." When Princess Scarlet Rainbow saw Xia Qingqing's appearance, her expression changed and she exclaimed. She leaped down from the Eucatabean and ran over. Xia Qingqing forced a smile. "I'm fine. I'll be fine after going back to recuperate. Brother Xia." In a flash, Su Zimo arrived beside Xia Qingqing as well. He had a worried expression and was suppressing immense rage. Even though he was injured, Xia Qingqing pretended to be relaxed and teased, "You guys are finally here. If you hadn't arrived, I would have really made a run for it." "Thank you." Su Zimo was touched. Although he did not say anything, he remembered this loyalty in his heart. If not for Xia Qingqing, he would not have been able to find Feng Zi and perfected immortal burial night. Furthermore, in order to buy time, Xia Qingqing even took the risk and was implicated, severely injured. Actually, Su Zimo merely instructed Xia Qingqing to look for someone. Xia Qingqing and Feng Zi did not know one another. Even if he did not stop them, Su Zimo would not blame him at all. However, Xia Qingqing still stood out. Although he looked meek on the surface, he was courageous on the inside. Su Zimo arrived before Feng Zi and perfected immortal burial night, who was in a weak state. He could not help but frown with a terrible expression. With his experience, he could naturally tell that perfected immortal burial night was at the end of his road. Coupled with his injuries, perfected immortal burial night could die at any moment. "Lad, you're here." The corners of Perfected Immortal Burial Knight's mouth twitched as he tried his best to squeeze out a smile. Feng Zi did not say anything but looked at Su Zimo deeply. Su Zimo said in a deep voice, "Senior, don't worry. I'll take you guys away. I'm already someone who's about to die, don't worry about me." Perfected Immortal Burial Knight said, "Take Zi away and take good care of her." Since when did Heaven and Earth Academy like to be so nosy? A perfected immortal of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom suddenly sneered. "The three of you think that you can snatch him from the hands of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom?" Yang Ruoxu came to Xia Qingqing's side and pushed down on his chest, wanting to purge away the true essence left behind by Zhu Wuying. However, he tried a few times in succession but failed. Zhu Wuying was a Paradise Void perfected immortal while Yang Ruoxu was only a Convergence perfected immortal. The difference between them was way too great. Zhu Wuying looked at Yang Ruoxu's actions and said, "You were the one who said that I was bullying the weak, right? Given your cultivation, you think you can get rid of the true essence sword chi I left behind? Fufufu, are all people from the academy so ignorant? Who is that? He looks unfamiliar. I don't think I've seen him before." Judging from his cultivation realm, he must have just become a legacy disciple of the academy. You've just entered the perfected one realm. Do you really think that you're omnipotent? Let me tell you the truth, you still have a long way to go. The other perfected immortals of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom chuckled with mocking expressions. You guys are so noisy. Suddenly, a voice sounded from a room of the Academian spirit vessel. Although it could not conceal the disdain and disgust in the voice towards everyone from the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom, it was extremely pleasant. Immediately after, a woman walked out of the Academian and stood at the bow. A gentle breeze blew and the woman's clothes fluttered. She had a graceful figure and her black hair was tied into a bun. She was like a fairy from the 9 heavens who had walked out of an ancient painting and was breathtakingly beautiful. The mockery and private conversations from earlier on vanished instantly. Everyone's gazes landed on the woman and could not shift away. Chapter 2459, 2459 Slaying a Perfected Immortal. 2459 Slaying a Perfected Immortal. Among the 4 great fairies, the painting immortal was the most mysterious. She usually lived in seclusion and rarely appeared. Many people had never seen her before. Everyone present felt that the woman on the Academian was extremely beautiful. Standing motionlessly at the bow, it was as though she had fused with her surroundings into a picturesque painting. Painting immortal? Although Zhu Wuying had never seen the true appearance of the painting immortal before, he quickly deduced when he saw the sect badge on the woman's waist and the Academian beneath her feet. Even in the entire divine firmament immortal domain, there were only a few people with such appearance and aura, let alone Heaven and Earth Academy. She's painting immortal Mo Qing. Among the execution guards, an execution guard commander said in a deep voice, "Back at the immortal sect selection, I was lucky enough to meet her once." This commander of the Heaven execution guards was Lone Star. Back then, he accompanied Prince Yuanzhua to the immortal sect selection to hunt down Su Zimo. It's fairy Mo Qing. That explains everything. The painting immortal actually appeared for this matter? I didn't come for nothing today, hee hee. Many cultivators of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom looked at Mo Qing with burning gazes and discussed secretly. Even the dozens of perfected immortals looked towards Zhu Wuying instinctively. If it was just Yang Ruoxu of Heaven and Earth Academy, they would naturally not take him seriously and could mock him as much as they wanted. However, everyone had reservations against painting immortal Mo Qing. Mo Qing leaped down from the Academian and arrived beside Xia Qingqing. She reached out with her slender hand and pushed against Xia Qingqing's chest. A powerful and strange true essence surged in, gradually purging away the true essence sword chi that Zhu Wuying left in his body. Zhu Wuying said, "Painting immortal Mo Qing, I've heard a lot about you." Mo Qing did not look at him. She merely glanced in Su Zimo's direction and said indifferently, "I'm taking those 2 away." Zhu Wuying was silent for a moment before saying, "I'm afraid not." Feng Zi was of great importance and was the key to luring Feng Cantian out. Getting rid of Feng Cantian and eliminating the root of the problem once and for all was extremely important for King Jin and the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. There was no way he could let Feng Zi leave. Mo Qing's expression was unchanged as she asked, "And if I insist on taking them away? Then I'm sorry." Zhu Wuying's eyes were emotionless. "Coincidentally, I'm interested in seeing just how capable you are, painting immortal." Although Zhu Wuying betrayed Remnant Knight and joined the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom before obtaining the opportunity to cultivate many Dharmic Daos, his foundation was still the Tao of assassination. Zhu Wuying did not care about women at all. Since they could not agree on things, the atmosphere turned tense with just a few words. Yang Ruoxu sent a voice transmission to Su Zimo secretly. "Zimo, if a fight breaks out later, take them and leave as soon as possible. I'll join forces with senior sister Mo Qing and try our best to delay things." "Is this Zhu Wuying difficult to deal with?" Su Zimo asked with a voice transmission. This person, together with senior brother Yu Huan Chunfeng Jian of Imperial Wind Temple, are known as the three great sword immortals of Divine Firmament. His combat strength can be ranked in the top 10 among the perfected immortals of Divine Firmament. Yang Ruoxu said, "Senior sister Mo Qing is famous for her Tao of painting. She hasn't cultivated to the final Paradise Void realm and her combat strength is definitely inferior to Zhu Wuying. However, I heard that senior sister Mo Qing has a painting book in her hands. If she tears it all apart, we should be able to stop them for the time being." In midair, a perfected immortal of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom rolled his eyes and suddenly chuckled. "I heard that painting immortal Mo Qing had an affair with a disciple of the academy, Yang Ruoxu. Initially, I thought that it was a rumor. Now that I'm seeing it for myself, I know that the rumors are true." The perfected immortal expert repeated the same trick and intended to use this matter to attack Mo Qing's Tao heart like zither immortal Meng Yao. If it was in the past, Mo Qing would definitely fall into the other party's trap. She would try to argue her way out or be secretly frustrated, falling deeper and deeper until her Tao heart revealed an opening. However, after the experience of Avicii, Mo Qing was no longer the same as before. When she heard that person's remarks, Mo Qing's expression was indifferent as she looked up at the perfected immortal and said, "Picturesque reality." Mo Qing channeled her Tao fruit and a halo shone behind her head as she raised her hand slightly. Splash! Instantly, the beautiful surroundings and thousands of kilometers of rivers and mountains formed a shocking painting that suppressed the perfected immortal. Nobody expected Mo Qing to attack the perfected immortal of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom first without a second word. Furthermore, she released a supreme divine power that she had comprehended in the Tao of painting. The moment she attacked, it was a killing move without mercy. Even Su Zimo and Yang Ruoxu could not react in time, let alone the perfected immortals of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. It felt as though a woman who was usually silent and aloof from worldly affairs had suddenly killed someone in such a domineering manner. Who would have expected that? "You." The perfected immortal summoned his destiny spirit treasure hurriedly and blocked in front of him, unable to release his supreme divine power in time. Boom! Picturesque reality crushed down. The majestic mountains and valleys that Mo Qing could see extended with rivers, waterfalls, smoke for thousands of kilometers, vast clouds, flora, birds, and beasts, all of them were drawn into the painting and fused into one. The cultivation of this perfected immortal was not high and he was only at the convergence realm. How could he withstand the impact of that power? As though he was struck by lightning, the person shuddered and spat out a mouthful of blood. Even through his destiny spirit treasure, the power of picturesque reality shattered his life force completely. The person's eyes were listless and dim. He smashed heavily onto the ground with the destiny spirit treasure in his hands and died on the spot. Mo Qing attacked domineeringly and killed a perfected immortal of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom directly. If there are people in the world who slander, bully, humiliate, laugh at, look down on, degrade or hate you, there's no need for you to endure or explain yourself. What should I do? Just kill them. When Mo Qing attacked, she recalled what Desolate Marshal said to her back then. From that moment on, she understood one thing. Most of the time, there was no need for her to prove her innocence against some evildoers. If she was weak, retreated, avoided or endured, it would only make the other party push their luck and be even more aggressive. There was no need for her to explain or endure, she could just fight. Even if she could not kill the other party, she would defeat them and beat them up so that they would feel fear and no longer dare to spout nonsense. Indeed. When Mo Qing attacked and killed the perfected immortal of the great Jin immortal kingdom, the others were shocked and hurriedly summoned their sentient dermic treasures. They glared at her with wary expressions. There was no one else who dared to speak ill of her. Zhu Wuying's expression darkened as he said coldly, "Do you think that you and Yang Ruoxu alone can defend against the perfected immortals present in the great Jin immortal kingdom? Let me tell you, it's useless even if you tear all the paintings in your painting book. No one can take away anyone that I, Zhu Wuying, want to keep." Mo Qing took out her painting book and held it in her hands. A gentle breeze blew past and flipped through the pages of the painting book. All sorts of powerful living beings swept past it with a terrifying aura. "You can try me." Mo Qing held the painting book fearlessly. At most, she would tear the painting book apart and perish together with them. Foo-foo. Suddenly, Zhu Wuying laughed. "Fairy Mo Qing, it's impolite not to reciprocate. Since you killed someone from the great Jin immortal kingdom, I'll let Heaven and Earth Academy pay with a life." Chapter 2460 Escaping Unscathed. 2460 Escaping Unscathed. This is bad. Mo Qing's heart sank. Over the years, she had browsed through much information about the cultivation world and had naturally heard of the capabilities of the shadowless sword. Zhu Wuying was the most famous assassin in the current era and had once killed many powerful perfected immortals above his level. He was quite famous in the Nine Firmament immortal domain and even the entire heavenly world. His combat strength might not be top tier among the perfected immortals, but even the experts on the perfected immortal ranking were extremely wary of him. She and Yang Ruoxu were the only perfected immortals among those of the academy present. Mo Qing believed that Zhu Wuying would not dare to kill her. In that case, Zhu Wuying only had a single target left. Yang Ruoxu. This was a Paradise Void perfected immortal trying to assassinate a Convergence perfected immortal. There was no doubt that Yang Ruoxu would die. In a flash, those thoughts flashed through Mo Qing's mind. Without hesitation, she took out an ancient painting right away and threw it in the direction of Yang Ruoxu. This was a treasure she had obtained in Avicii, the Divine Ghost Immortal Fiend diagram. Zhu Wuying's assassination attempt was silent and without a trace. If she were to make a move after sensing it, it would definitely be too late. Mo Qing could only predict beforehand and make a decision. The Divine Ghost Immortal Fiend diagram spread instantly and surrounded Yang Ruoxu. There were 4 figures on the painting and 3 of them were dim with blurry lines that could not be seen clearly. However, one of them had golden hair, blue eyes and shone with a blinding golden light from head to toe. His blood qi surged and his gaze was burning with life. Although it was only a figure on the painting, it exuded an endless might. God race. Many perfected immortal experts exclaimed when they saw that figure. The characteristics of the god race were extremely obvious and could be recognized at a glance. Many perfected immortals even suspected that if anyone approached and threatened Yang Ruoxu, the god figure on the painting would run out and kill all threats. Back in Avicii, a bone fiend of white bones sect merely exchanged glances with the god figure on the Divine Ghost Immortal Fiend diagram and was blinded on the spot. It was clear how strong the god figure was. All these years, even when Mo Qing comprehended the Divine Ghost Immortal Fiend diagram, she had only comprehended the god figure. There were also the ghost, immortal and fiend figures that she had yet to comprehend. Foo-foo. Suddenly, a scoff filled with mockery sounded from midair. That was Zhu Wuying's laughter. Furthermore, he had already vanished from the spot. The most terrifying assassin of the heavenly world had already attacked. However, there was no reaction from the divine ghost immortal fiend diagram that surrounded Yang Ruoxu. The god figure on it did not retaliate either. Suddenly, Mo Qing thought of a possibility and her heart sank as blood drained from her face. Zhu Wuying's target might not be Yang Ruoxu, but Su Zimo. I heard that this lad is irreconcilable with Prince Yuan Zhua and even offended Princess Meng Yao. I'll kill him today as a gift for her. Zhu Wuying's voice sounded and his assassination had already descended on Su Zimo. Nobody expected Zhu Wuying to attack Su Zimo. Firstly, Su Zimo was only a heaven immortal. For a renowned expert like Zhu Wuying, assassinating a heaven immortal was like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. There was no need for that. Secondly, Mo Qing killed a perfected immortal expert of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. Therefore, when Zhu Wuying said that he wanted Heaven and Earth Academy to pay with a life, everyone would instinctively think that Zhu Wuying would also assassinate a perfected immortal of the Academy. That way, both parties would be equal. However, the actions of assassins could not be judged with common sense to begin with. The Tao of assassination required the element of surprise. The more unexpected it was, the higher the success rate of the assassination. Zimo, watch out. The first to react was perfected immortal burial knight. Although they were both assassins, Zhu Wuying's assassination technique was imparted to him by perfected immortal burial knight. Naturally, he could sense what was on Zhu Wuying's mind. However, he was severely injured and was at the end of his road. Even his reaction was much slower, let alone help. In fact, it was even slower than Su Zimo's reaction. That was because just as Zhu Wuying was about to attack, Su Zimo's spirit perception warned him wildly. He sensed a strong sense of danger. The aura of death was so strong that it almost suffocated him. This might be the greatest danger he had encountered since he ascended to the upper world. An assassination attempt from a top-tier perfected immortal expert. It was too fast. Su Zimo could not see Zhu Wuying's figure, let alone the direction and trajectory of his attack. However, he knew that Zhu Wuying had already attacked. More importantly, although Yang Ruoxu and senior sister Mo Qing were present, no one could help him. By the time the two of them reacted, he would have been reduced to a corpse. Teleportation? His figure and aura were completely locked onto by Zhu Wuying and he could not teleport at all against the might of a perfected immortal expert. As for the true Dragon 9 flashes, its release speed was slightly slower than teleportation, he could not use it as well. Even the true Dragon 9 flashes could not do it, let alone the ethereal wings, rock wings, boundless golden light and other divine powers. Before he could release all those divine powers, Zhu Wuying would have already killed him. Even if he wanted to abandon this green lotus true body and his essence spirit left his body, it would not be able to match Zhu Wuying's sword. At the end of the day, the difference in strength between the two of them was immense and his many trump cards were almost useless in the face of absolute strength. Furthermore, for a top-tier assassin like Zhu Wuying, he would definitely give it his all the moment he attacked. He would not underestimate his opponents just because they were weak. Therefore, the moment Zhu Wuying attacked, he severed all of Su Zimo's escape routes. He wanted to kill with a single strike. Poof! Right in front of everyone, Su Zimo's glabella was pierced by a sword. Suddenly, Zhu Wuying's figure appeared. It's over. Yang Ruoxu was shocked and clenched his fists with a pained expression. It was too fast. Although the entire process sounded slow upon narration, it happened in an instant. With a single thought from everyone, Zhu Wuying's sword had already pierced Su Zimo's head. Mo Qing's eyes dimmed. There were no miracles in this world. Since Zhu Wuying made a move, he would definitely kill all of Su Zimo's chances of survival. If he wanted to survive, he had to first sense Zhu Wuying's killing intent, determine the direction of the sword and have the ability to escape from its pursuit. Even perfected immortals would not be able to do all of that, let alone a heaven immortal. The shadowless sword was silent and unfathomable. Even she could only barely catch a faint trace of it. In other words, she could not guarantee that she would be able to escape unscathed if Zhu Wuying attacked her. However, the moment those thoughts flashed through Mo Qing's mind, she frowned slightly and noticed something amiss. There was no blood at all after the sword pierced Su Zimo's head. Something unexpected seemed to have happened on the battlefield. Bang! Su Zimo's body exploded without any flesh. His body transformed into rays of green light and dissipated into the world. Immediately after, Su Zimo's figure suddenly appeared beside Mo Qing. Although his face was pale as though he was scared out of his wits, his life force was strong and intact. Su Zimo was not dead. He managed to escape from Zhu Wuying's sword. Everyone's eyes widened in shock. Chapter 2461, 2461 Ant Shaking a Tree. 2461 Ant Shaking a Tree. Swoosh. Su Zimo had just stabilized himself when a jade-colored light flew over from Zhu Wuying's sword and entered his consciousness. Many perfected immortals could clearly see that the jade-colored light seemed to be a jade manual. Golden cicada shedding? Zhu Wuying murmured softly, and a look of surprise flashed through his long eyes. Everything happened too quickly. Apart from Zhu Wuying and Su Zimo, many bystanders did not know what happened. Zhu Wuying was right, Su Zimo had just used a supreme divine power, golden cicada shedding. Golden cicada shedding was a little special. There was a prerequisite for releasing this divine power: one had to possess a clone of their own. Thereafter, he would make use of his clone to complete the process of escaping with golden cicada shedding. When he was attacked fatally, his clone would endure the damage and his true body would escape. That was not the reason why Zhu Wuying was surprised. That was because even if someone released golden cicada shedding, they would not be able to break free from his shadowless sword. His sword was extremely fast and powerful, enough to penetrate Su Zimo's clone and true body. He did not give Su Zimo's true body a chance to escape at all. However, a variable still happened. In order to kill with a single strike, Zhu Wuying attacked and charged toward Su Zimo's consciousness. When his sword entered Su Zimo's consciousness, he felt a tremendous resistance. The tip of the sword seemed to have struck a tough object that could not be pierced. The reason why he appeared was because his shadowless sword paused. The shadowless sword struck the pure jade manual. The clone that he destroyed was the primeval body that Su Zimo condensed using the pure jade manual. No matter how sharp the shadowless sword was, it could not penetrate the pure jade manual. This jade manual had been passed down through history and was an indestructible treasure to begin with, containing a world within. Only emperor weapons could destroy it. That momentary pause allowed Su Zimo to find a sliver of life and release his teleportation divine power. He escaped and arrived beside Fairy Mo Qing. Thereafter, the pure jade manual returned to his consciousness. It did not matter if his primeval body was destroyed, he could release it again a few days later. Although the entire process seemed simple, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat when he recalled it. If there was even a single deviation in his judgment, he would have died on the spot. You have the pure jade manual of the three pure ones jade manual in your hands. Zhu Wuying was extremely sharp and recognized the origin of the pure jade manual instantly. Many perfected immortals' eyes lit up when they heard that. A taboo mystic classic, the three pure ones jade manual. Although it was only a single volume, it was a priceless treasure that could drive countless cultivators crazy. Whoosh! Suddenly, the sound of a sharp blade tearing through the air was ear-piercing. By the time everyone heard the sound, a golden light had already closed in with a terrifying power that almost tore through the void. Its target was Zhu Wuying. It was too fast. Furthermore, the timing of the golden light was perfect. Zhu Wuying had just failed in his attack and revealed himself. Most of his attention was focused on Su Zimo and the pure jade manual, and he was slightly distracted. Right then, the golden light arrived instantly. Zhu Wuying's expression was dark as he channeled his Dao fruit and released a tremendous amount of true essence. Gripping the shadowless sword in reverse, he slashed towards the golden light. Clang! The shadowless sword collided with the golden light and let out a sharp sound. Zhu Wuying shuddered. The golden light revealed its true form at the same time. It was a golden arrow. The power of that arrow was way too strong. The moment Zhu Wuying made contact with it, he realized that he could not neutralize the power contained in the arrow completely given his strength. The momentum of Zhu Wuying's sword suddenly changed as he guided the golden arrow towards the top of his head. At the same time, he lowered his body. If things went according to plan, the arrow would follow the momentum to shoot over his head. However, right then, a change happened on the battlefield. Almost everyone who saw that would instinctively wonder who the attacker was and how Zhu Wuying should dispel that arrow. However, Su Zimo was glaring at Zhu Wuying's figure the entire time. His killing intent surged and he was waiting for an opportunity to strike. Zhu Wuying had just nearly taken his life. How could he let things go just like that? However, the difference between them was extremely great. Under normal circumstances, none of his methods would be a threat to Zhu Wuying. In fact, he might not even be able to touch the corner of Zhu Wuying's clothes. But now, Zhu Wuying had no time to be distracted against that arrow. This was the perfect opportunity for him to strike. Fleeting moment. Many divine powers and secret skills flashed through Su Zimo's mind before he finally chose this supreme divine power. Everyone was stunned. Nobody expected that a mere heaven immortal who had just escaped death from the shadowless sword would dare to attack a peak-perfected immortal expert. Even Zhu Wuying had not expected this. However, he was calm and was not worried at all. Without even looking at Su Zimo, a mocking expression flashed through his face. Even a supreme divine power released by a grade 9 heaven immortal was of no threat to him, let alone a grade 6 heaven immortal. There was an insurmountable gap between heaven immortals and perfected immortals. When heaven immortals released their divine powers, they still used heaven and earth essence chi as the foundation. As for perfected immortal experts, they condensed their Tao fruits and were protected by true essence. Even if they did not move, they could defend against the supreme divine powers released by any heaven immortal. Furthermore, Zhu Wuying was a paradise void perfected immortal. When the Tao fruit was pushed to its limits, his true essence was pure and condensed. It was vast and majestic, circulating within his body and was not something that heaven immortals could deal with. Fufu. In midair, many perfected immortals of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom could not help but sneer when they saw Su Zimo's actions. In their eyes, Su Zimo's actions looked so childish and naive. An ant shaking a tree, those words were the perfect description of this scene. Zhu Wuying did not take fleeting moments seriously at all. He merely used his true essence to protect himself and defended against the incoming golden arrow wholeheartedly. Dong! After fleeting moment was released, another drumbeat sounded in the void. Suddenly, Zhu Wuying's figure swayed imperceptibly. Boom! The golden arrow crossed his head and entered a stone wall not far away with a loud bang. Half of the golden arrow's tail was exposed and was still trembling slightly. It was clear how terrifying the arrow's power was. The sound of the drum after fleeting moment was drowned by the loud bang and no one noticed it. Su Zimo looked at Zhu Wuying who was not far away and lamented internally. After all, fleeting moment had not synthesized perfectly with the twilight drum sound and was not a threat to a perfected immortal expert like Zhu Wuying. Shing! Right then, the bamboo hat on Zhu Wuying's head exploded into pieces. The golden arrow that flew by earlier on merely scratched the edge of the bamboo hat and tore it apart with a tremendous force. Zhu Wuying remained silent with a cold gaze. The black cloth on his face covered his unfathomable expressions and slightly weathered face. He reacted quickly and took out a brand new bamboo hat from his storage bag, putting it on once more. During that short process, Su Zimo noticed something unusual. He caught sight of a few white hairs on Zhu Wuying's sideburns. Although fleeting moment could not kill Zhu Wuying, it was still effective. Chapter 2462, 2462 Retreat. 2462 Retreat. Apart from Su Zimo, no one else noticed anything unusual about Zhu Wuying. Zhu Wuying cultivated many cultivation techniques and was able to conceal his aura to begin with. Nobody expected that a supreme divine power of a grade 6 heaven immortal would affect a paradise void perfected immortal. At that moment, Zhu Wuying's heart was in turmoil. His lifespan was 60,000 years short. Initially, he was 380,000 years old and was still at his peak for a perfected immortal with a lifespan of 500,000 years. However, in just a few breaths, he was already 440,000 years old. Although his combat strength was still present and had almost not decreased, from that moment on, he was already past his peak and had begun declining. Under normal circumstances, he could have avoided that golden arrow perfectly. He was confident that his calculations were spot on. However, it was because of the decrease in his lifespan that there was a deviation in his strength. That was the reason why the golden arrow earlier on tore his bamboo hat. Apart from Zhu Wuying and Su Zimo, no one else knew what the slight deviations in his body earlier on meant. How is that possible? Zhu Wuying could not believe it. A supreme divine power released by a grade 6 heaven immortal could affect his lifespan and even reduce it by more than 60,000 years? Unless, that was not a supreme divine power at all, but a peerless divine power. However, that did not make sense. Peerless divine powers had extremely high requirements for the essence spirit. Even a grade 9 heaven immortal would die on the spot before they even released it due to the toll on their essence spirit, let alone a grade 6 heaven immortal. Furthermore, how could a heaven immortal come into contact with peerless divine powers? Peerless divine powers were comparable to taboo mystic classics. Most perfected immortals had difficulty coming into contact with it. Even if they came into contact with it, it would be difficult for them to benefit from it even if they spent their entire lives, let alone comprehend and release it. It was no exaggeration to say that if a perfected immortal expert could comprehend a peerless divine power, it was almost certain that he was the supreme perfected immortal of the current era. Although Zhu Wuying was enraged that he lost 60,000 years of lifespan for no reason, he did not attack Su Zimo right away. First, Su Zimo was already standing beside Painting Immortal Mo Qing. Painting Immortal Mo Qing wielded the Divine Ghost Immortal Fiend diagram and he no longer had any chances. Second, the person who fired the arrow earlier on was the greatest threat to him. Zhu Wuying looked in the direction where the golden arrow came from and saw a group of hundreds of riders approaching slowly. All of them wore battle armor and wielded spears. The tall horses they rode were extraordinary. They had powerful auras with flames on their hooves. It was clear that they were variant immortal beasts. Their leader wore golden armor and was tall and burly. Even though he was riding on a horse, he was far superior to others. He had handsome features and his eyes were blue as the sea. His sockets were slightly sunken, accentuating his deep gaze and high nose bridge. Their leader was a god race being. The god race being had a bag of golden arrows on his back and a golden halberd on his horse's back, wielding a gigantic bow in his hands. Although there were not many troops, they were disciplined and every single one of them exuded steely killing intent as though they were on the battlefield. It's the Imperial Army of the Zhixian Immortal Kingdom. Yang Ruoxu whispered, by the looks of it, they might be on our side. I wonder who invited these reinforcements. Su Zimo looked over. Through the figures of the Imperial Army, he could vaguely see that there seemed to be a carriage in the middle of the hundreds of Imperial Army soldiers but he could not see who was inside. Yang Ruoxu said, the god race being in the lead is Shu Gan. For some unknown reason, he chose to join the Zhixian Immortal Kingdom and become the commander of the Imperial Army. This person rarely attacks. However, it said that his combat strength should be ranked in the top 5 among the perfected immortals of the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. Only someone from the royal family of the Zhixian Immortal Kingdom with an extremely high status could have mobilized this person. When he heard that, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he roughly guessed the identity of the person in the carriage. Yang Ruoxu was puzzled. I wonder who has the power to bring the Zixian immortal kingdom into this. Su Zimo remained silent. Only Mo Qing seemed to have sensed something and glanced at Su Zimo instinctively. Yang Ruoxu pondered for a moment and glanced at painting immortal Mo Qing before sending a voice transmission to Su Zimo secretly. It might be senior sister Mo Qing. She's the only one who has such an influence. So, it's Commander Shu. I was wondering who could have shot that arrow with such strength. Zhu Wuying looked at Shu Gan, who was not far away, and asked slowly, "May I know why you're here, Commander Shu?" "I'm going to take those two away." Shu Gan pointed to Feng Zi and Perfected Immortal Burial Knight, who were not far away, and said, "Don't worry." Su Zimo sent a voice transmission to Feng Zi and Perfected Immortal Burial Knight with his spirit consciousness. "The people from the Zixian Immortal Kingdom have no ill intentions. And if I don't let them go?" Zhu Wuying raised his brow slightly. Clang! Suddenly, Shu Gan slapped the metal spear in front of him and said expressionlessly, "You can try." Apart from Shu Gan, there were less than 10 perfected immortals on the side of the Zixian Immortal Kingdom. Even if Heaven and Earth Academy and the Zixian Immortal Kingdom joined forces, they could not compare to the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom in terms of numbers. However, if a huge battle were to break out, the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom would probably suffer immense losses and return in defeat. Zhu Wuying felt that he could only take on Shu Gan at most. Even then, his chances of winning were not high. If Fairy Mo Qing were to tear the painting book in her hands and release many powerful ferocious beasts and living beings, it would be difficult for the perfected immortals of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom to defend. Also, in the middle of the Zixian Immortal Kingdom's imperial army, there was a mysterious carriage. It looked simple without any decorations and was extremely plain. However, Zhu Wuying checked multiple times in secret to see who was sitting inside, but to no avail. After his spirit consciousness entered the carriage, it vanished instantly like a clay ox entering the sea. Unknowns were variables. Zhu Wuying did not dare to wage war rashly. What he said earlier on was actually just to test the determination of the Zixian Immortal Kingdom. However, Shu Gan's unyielding attitude made him want to retreat. Furthermore, his lifespan was inexplicably reduced by 60,000 years after he was struck by a supreme divine power of a heaven immortal. He wanted to go back and check as soon as possible to see if there was anything wrong with his body and how he could recover his lost 60,000 years of lifespan. Subconsciously, he was still unable to accept that the supreme divine power of a heaven immortal could reduce his lifespan by 60,000 years cleanly and cause irreparable damage. "Since you insist, Commander Shu, I'll give you some face." After a long silence, Zhu Wuying said slowly, "However, let me remind you that the two people you're choosing to protect are wanted criminals of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. I'm afraid you won't be able to bear the responsibility if a conflict breaks out between our two immortal kingdoms because of this, Commander Shu." Shu Gan was unmoved and replied indifferently, "You don't have to worry for me." "All right." Zhu Wuying sneered, "I'll definitely report everything that happened today when I return. Commander Shu, I'll remember your arrow today. I hope that you'll be careful when you head out in the future." Even Shu Gan's expression changed instinctively and he frowned at the threat of a top-tier assassin. With that said, Zhu Wuying disappeared from the spot in a flash. The other perfected immortal experts of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom exchanged glances and could only return to the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. The thousands of execution guards retreated rapidly like a tide. Chapter 2463, 2463 Sent to the Fiend Domain. 2463 Sent to the Fiend Domain. Su Zimo and the others heaved a sigh of relief when they saw the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom retreat. Perfected Immortal Burial Knight witnessed the entire process and felt emotional. He and Feng Zi did not have such power to cause the Yen-Yang Immortal Kingdom, Heaven and Earth Academy and even the Zixian Immortal Kingdom to step in to save them. It was all because of a single person. It was because of this person's interference that dozens of perfected immortals from the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom and thousands of execution guards left in disgrace. In fact, a perfected immortal's corpse was even left behind. Back then, this young man was in a wretched state and had nowhere to hide. In just a few thousand years, that weak cultivator of the past had already grown to such an extent and mobilized 3 top factions in the divine firmament immortal domain to send reinforcements. Su Zimo cupped his fists towards Shu Gen on his divine steed and said in a deep voice, "I'm Su Zimo of Heaven and Earth Academy. Thank you for your help, Commander Shu." Shu Gen nodded. "My mistress invites you and Fairy Mo Qing in." As he said that, the group of Imperial Army soldiers dispersed, revealing a passage that led to the simple and plain carriage in the middle. If it was anyone else who invited her into the carriage, she would definitely ignore them. However, at that moment, Mo Qing had already guessed the identity of the person in the carriage and would naturally not decline the request. Su Zimo patted Xia Qingsheng on the shoulder and nodded slightly. "Brother Xia, please wait a moment. I'll be right back." Thereafter, he nodded to Feng Zi and perfected Immortal Burial Night, indicating for them to not worry. Su Zimo and Mo Qing walked over and the Imperial Army closed in once more, blocking everyone's line of sight. Yang Ruoxu, Xia Qingsheng, and the others still did not know the identity of the mysterious person in the carriage. Su Zimo and Mo Qing boarded the carriage and a plain-robed woman sat at the side, looking at them with a smile. It was Book Immortal Yunzhu. In the Zixian Immortal Kingdom, there were not many people who could mobilize the Imperial Army to begin with. There were even less people who could order Commander Shu Gen around. Even Yunting was not qualified, but Yunzhu could. "Indeed, it was you, sister." Mo Qing smiled at Yunzhu. Back in Avicii, the 3 of them were the ones who experienced life and death danger together. As such, the relationship between the 2 fairies became extremely close and they referred to one another as sisters. Due to her personality, Mo Qing did not have many friends. After the trip to Avicii, she almost regarded Yunzhu as her only confidant. Su Zimo rarely saw senior sister Mo Qing smile. Now that senior sister Mo Qing was smiling at Yunzhu, he felt a sense of amazement. "I'm in the academy with senior sister and we meet often. If this is how I feel despite that, outsiders will probably lose their souls at the sight of this smile." A thought flashed through Su Zimo's mind. "What are you thinking about? I've done you such a huge favor and you're not even going to greet me?" Right then, Yunzhu's voice sounded. Su Zimo snapped out of his stupor and coughed gently, smiling. "Fellow Daoist, please don't blame me. Thank you for today's matter." Yunzhu smiled and did not make things difficult for Su Zimo. She turned to look at Mo Qing. "I don't want to show myself, so I called the 2 of you over." Naturally, Su Zimo and Mo Qing understood this matter. Mo Qing asked, "However, your Imperial Army was the one who appeared this time round and took away the 2 of them. If the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom pursues the matter, how will you deal with it?" Yunzhu did not reply. She looked at Su Zimo and asked, "What do you intend to do with the 2 of them?" Su Zimo said, "I want to send them to the Fiend Domain." This was also his initial plan so that Feng Cantian and Feng Zi could reunite. Yunzhu glanced at Su Zimo with a fake smile and said deliberately, "Send them to Tianhuang's sect in the Fiend Domain so that they can be protected by Desolate Marshal, right?" Feeling guilty, Su Zimo stole a glance at senior sister Mo Qing. When he saw that the latter did not notice anything unusual, he stammered, "Yes. Feng Cantian is over there. I heard that he's already a Grotto Heaven King and can take care of them." Yunzhu no longer teased Su Zimo and said sternly, "If the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom asks about it, it'll be easy to deal with them. I'll just say that the 2 of them were abducted midway or find any other random excuse to brush it off. If we're heading to the Fiend Domain, we can head in the direction of the Zixian Immortal Kingdom. I'll escort them and there won't be any danger." "All right." Su Zimo was delighted. "I'll arrange for them to come over right away." If they headed in the direction of the Zixian Immortal Kingdom and were escorted by Book Immortal Yunzhu, it would be equivalent to Feng Zi and perfected immortal burial knight breaking free from the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom's line of sight and pursuit. Su Zimo stood up and left the carriage. He went to Xia Qingqing's side first and said, "Brother Xia, I really have to thank you for this. However, I didn't expect that you would be severely injured today." "It's nothing." Xia Qingqing waved it off coolly and smiled. "This injury is nothing much. I'll recover completely after recuperating for a few days. Brother Xia, I have other matters to attend to and can't drink heartily with you today. I can only bid farewell here." Su Zimo said in a deep voice. "However, Brother Xia, if you need anything in the future, feel free to look for me at Heaven and Earth Academy. If I can, I'll definitely do my best." "Yes." Xia Qingqing's expression changed slightly as he pondered for a moment, as though he wanted to say something but was hesitant. When Su Zimo saw that Xia Qingqing wanted to speak but hesitated, he said, "Brother Xia, feel free to speak your mind." Xia Qingqing was silent for a moment before smiling. "It's nothing much. We'll talk about it in the future." Su Zimo frowned slightly. It was clear that Xia Qingqing had something on his mind. However, since he was unwilling to say it explicitly, Su Zimo could not ask further. Xia Qingqing took a deep breath and cupped his fists with a smile. "Brother Su, don't worry. Go on with your business. I'm prepared to head back as well. We'll meet again in the future." Su Zimo nodded. "Like I said, if you encounter any difficulties, come look for me." "All right, let's bid farewell here." Xia Qingqing cupped his fists once more before bidding farewell to Yang Ruoxu, Princess Scarlet Rainbow and the others. He led the hundreds of heaven immortals under his lead and sped off on the spirit vessel. Yang Ruoxu and Princess Scarlet Rainbow came up as well. They bid farewell to Su Zimo and left hand in hand, returning to Heaven and Earth Academy. Su Zimo supported perfected immortal burial knight and passed through the imperial army with Feng Zi. Beside the simple carriage, Yunzhu had already prepared another spacious and grand carriage. Su Zimo helped perfected immortal burial knight in with Feng Zi following closely behind. The carriage opened up and there were many necessities within. Compared to Yunzhu's simple and plain carriage, it was worlds apart. Perfected immortal burial knight's condition was getting worse and he could not even stand. He could only lie on the bed and the glint in his eyes dimmed gradually. This was the monarch of the assassins who established Hidden Death sect in Tianhuang mainland and experienced the ancient war. Even after ascending for another 400,000 years, he was still at the end of his life. Perfected immortal burial knight was at the end of his road. He did not have any excess strength to heal his injuries. The carriage had already begun to move. However, it was unusually silent within, filled with the sadness of parting. Chapter 2464, 2464 Injustice. 2464 Injustice. Feng Zi did not say anything the entire time and merely guarded beside perfected immortal burial knight quietly. She was expressionless and even her eyes were like stagnant water without any ripples. She had always been like this. Su Zimo had known her for many years and had traveled with her before. Although they had interacted for a while, he rarely saw any emotions on her face. Initially, Su Zimo thought that she was cold by nature. However, later on, he found out that her family was destroyed when she was young and she witnessed her parents die tragically. That was the reason why her personality changed drastically and she became like this. "Where have you guys been all these years?" Su Zimo asked. After the Thunder Monarch formed his grotto heaven and became a king, he came to the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain to look for you guys and Remnant Knight's old subordinates. However, Immortal King experts of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom were alarmed and he could only retreat to the Fiend Domain helplessly. All these years, I've also entrusted friends of the Yan Yang Immortal Kingdom and Zi Xian Immortal Kingdom to look for you guys. However, there was no news. Feng Zi said, after we parted ways previously, Prince Yuanzhua launched a frenzied revenge and hunted down all remaining remnant night cultivators. Master and I had nowhere to hide and fled. In the process of escaping, he entered an ancient ruin by mistake and was isolated from the world. He only managed to escape after cultivating for thousands of years. When Master and I heard that Grandpa had established himself in the Fiend domain, we wanted to gather Remnant Knight's old faction and bring everyone over. However, Prince Yuanzhua had already set up a trap in advance and made use of Remnant Knight's old faction to lure me and Master out. Prince Yuanzhua again. Su Zimo's expression turned cold as killing intent flashed through his eyes. Gritting his teeth, he said, even after thousands of years, he's still persistently haunting us. Su Zimo pondered for a moment and understood Prince Yuanzhua's intentions. Back then, Feng Cantian broke free from Absolute Thunder City right under the nose of Prince Yuanzhua. Prince Yuanzhua was partly to blame and as such, his status as the Prince of Green Cloud County was removed. Although the current Yuanzhua was a prince, he did not have the true power of a prince. His status and power were far inferior to before. The reason why he wanted to capture Feng Zi and perfected Immortal Burial Knight to lure out Feng Cantian was so that he could make up for his mistake and reclaim his position as the Prince of Green Cloud County. That was why he did not give up even after thousands of years. What happened later on? Su Zimo asked. Feng Zi said, later on, Master brought me out of the encirclement but we were severely injured as well. These injuries were left behind by that battle. At the side, perfected Immortal Burial Knight coughed violently and panted. I'm not as I used to be, I'm too old. Even without asking, Su Zimo could roughly guess what happened later on. The reason why the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom sent Zhu Wuiying and dozens of other perfected immortals to hunt down Feng Zi and perfected Immortal Burial Knight was because they wanted to ensure that nothing went wrong after Prince Yuanzhua's encirclement failed. Given Prince Yuanzhua's current status, there was no way he could command these perfected immortals. Immortal King experts of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom were definitely behind this. Perfected Immortal Burial Knight's eyes were cloudy as he laughed self-deprecatingly and lamented, to think that after dominating for many years and killing countless strong foes, would end up falling in the hands of a group of juniors of the Heaven Immortal realm. There was a hint of indignance and sadness in perfected Immortal Burial Knight's tone. Su Zimo looked at the white-haired old man who was lying on the bed at the end of his road. He could not help but recall Tianhuang mainland and the majestic ancient era where multiple monarchs rose. The old man before him was one of the monarchs who founded Hidden Death Sect and passed it down through history. This old man was once comparable to the human monarch, Thunder Monarch, Saber Monarch, Sword Monarch and Buddha Monarch. In order for the human race to survive, he fought against the primordial 9 races and left behind legends on the battlefield, creating a glorious era that belonged to the human race. But now, a hero in his twilight years was humiliated to such an extent. A sense of injustice surged in Su Zimo's heart and he could not calm down for a long time. His chest felt stuffy and he could not help but take a deep breath. Suddenly, he stood up and left the carriage. With a cold expression, he gazed into the distance in silence. Before long, Mo Qing walked out of the carriage at the side. She looked at Su Zimo and said softly, "I'm going back." "Are you sending them to the Fiend domain?" "Yes." Su Zimo replied distractedly. Mo Qing pondered for a moment and suddenly said, "Follow me. I want to tell you something." The two of them jumped down from the carriage. After the imperial army of the Zhixian Immortal Kingdom left, Mo Qing took out a painting from her storage bag and handed it to Su Zimo. Mo Qing said, "Since you want to send them to the Fiend domain, help me give this painting to Desolate Marshal." "All right." Su Zimo nodded in agreement and was prepared to put it away. Mo Qing asked, "Aren't you going to take a look?" "Can I?" Su Zimo was stunned. Mo Qing said, "Of course. Since you're so familiar with him, can you help me take a look at how the painting looks? Does it resemble him?" Su Zimo obeyed and opened the painting slowly. There was a painting of a purple-robed man. His clothes fluttered and his black hair danced. Hands behind his back, he was tall and straight with a silver mask on his face. Those eyes were mysterious and deep with a hint of coldness. In terms of drawing skills alone, this painting had already drawn the martial Dao prime body almost perfectly and was lifelike. Mo Qing had only seen the martial Dao prime body a few times, and she was able to create such a painting based on her memories. Her title as the painting immortal was indeed well deserved. Even the unique aura of the martial Dao prime body was reflected in the painting. Yes, it resembles him very much. Su Zimo nodded and put away the painting. Thank you for your effort, senior sister. Although he agreed, he had no intention of handing the painting to the martial Dao prime body. Him seeing this painting was equivalent to the martial Dao prime body seeing this painting. Naturally, there was no need for him to do the unnecessary act of handing it personally to the martial Dao prime body. Mo Qing looked at Su Zimo begrudgingly. Speaking of which, it's your fault. All these years, I've looked for you many times, but you've always avoided me. If you had told me more about Desolate Marshal, this painting would have been even better. But now, this painting only has its form, but it lacks a lot of charm. Su Zimo was silent. I'm leaving. After you send them away, if there's nothing else, return to the academy. Mo Qing said, the matter of you possessing the pure jade manual has already been exposed. You might encounter danger outside. Thank you for your reminder, senior sister. Su Zimo cupped his fists. Mo Qing nodded and turned to leave, disappearing before long. Su Zimo looked in the direction of the Zhixian Immortal Kingdom's imperial army and took a deep breath. In a flash, he chased after them. This time round, Su Zimo did not head to Feng Zi's carriage. Instead, he knocked on Yunzhu's carriage. Come in. Yunzhu's voice sounded. Su Zimo entered the carriage. Yunzhu put down the book in her hands and smiled at him, teasing, I can tell that my sister Mo Qing pines for fellow Daoist Desolate Marshal. Su Zimo had a headache at the thought of this as well. Chapter 2465, 2465 A Shocking Assassination. 2465 A Shocking Assassination. When did you discover it? Su Zimo looked at Yunzhu curiously. He was not surprised that Yunzhu had her doubts after uncovering a clue from Tao Yao. However, it was a little ridiculous for Yunzhu to be able to confirm his relationship with the martial Dao prime body from just Tao Yao alone. Su Zimo believed that he must have let slip even before this to attract Yunzhu's attention. Make a guess. Yunzhu pursed her lips and smiled, but she refused to say anything. If it was any other time, Su Zimo would definitely recall carefully where he had revealed any flaws in the past. However, at that moment, he was thinking about something else and was in no mood to do it. Suddenly, Su Zimo asked, where is Prince Yuanzhua now? Yuanzhua would definitely not be able to continue staying in Green Cloud City after losing his status as the Prince of Green Cloud County. Yuanzhua? Yunzhu was stunned for a moment, not understanding why Su Zimo would suddenly shift the topic. However, she still said, Yuanzhua has lost his power for many years and has long been reduced to an ordinary prince with an idle position. Right now, he should be in absolute Thunder City. Su Zimo nodded and said in a deep voice, I'll leave Feng Zi and perfected Immortal Burial Night to you. I won't tag along. You're leaving? Yunzhu was a little surprised. Su Zimo's departure came without any warning. We'll meet again in the future. Thank you for this time round. Su Zimo cupped his fists and prepared to leave. Yunzhu frowned slightly, feeling that something was amiss. Just as Su Zimo was about to get out of the carriage, a thought flashed through Yunzhu's mind. She thought of a possibility and called him back hurriedly, hold on. Su Zimo paused. Yunzhu had a grim expression as she asked in a deep voice, Su Zimo, are you thinking of heading to Absolute Thunder City of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom to cause trouble for Prince Yuanzhua? Su Zimo sighed internally. Yunzhu was way too smart. He had just asked casually and Yunju had already guessed his motive. Su Zimo knew that he could not hide it from Yunju. Therefore, he remained silent as a form of acknowledgement. Yunju went forward and grabbed Su Zimo's wrist, pulling him back. Pushing him back to his seat, she frowned. "Brother Su, I know that you're indignant, but calm down first." Su Zimo remained silent. Yunju said, "That's the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom we're talking about. You've long been wanted by the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. That's way too dangerous. I'm afraid you'll be discovered before you even enter Absolute Thunder City, let alone look for Prince Yuanzhua." Su Zimo said, "I have a disguise technique that can hide from everything, allowing me to infiltrate Absolute Thunder City. In fact, I can even enter Yuanzhua's residence with ease." Yunju recalled as well that back at the Immortal Sect selection, Su Zimo had indeed disguised himself and it was difficult for others to tell. "Even if you can infiltrate Absolute Thunder City, what are you intending to do?" Yunju frowned and asked, "Absolute Thunder City is heavily guarded and there are many experts. Do you intend to kill Prince Yuanzhua in his territory? There's no harm in that." Su Zimo had a calm expression as he said in a deep voice, "Prince Yuanzhua is only an ordinary prince right now. After a few consecutive failures, his reputation and status among the princes and princesses of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom must have fallen to the bottom." This time round, Yunju did not refute. According to the information she had, Su Zimo's judgment was completely right. Feng Cantian escaped. At the Immortal Sect selection, the execution guards suffered immense losses and could not capture Su Zimo. In the fight for the Earth ranking, they returned in defeat once more, causing the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom to lose all face. On Great Tai Wei Mountain, Yuanzhua's final gambit and the combined forces of many factions were still mostly killed by Su Zimo. The few failures caused a huge loss to the reputation of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom and turned Yuanzhua into a joke of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. Su Zimo said, "Therefore, there won't be any perfected immortal experts presiding over Absolute Thunder City." Back then, the reason why Prince Yuanzhua was able to invite perfected immortal Jingyu out of seclusion during the encirclement on Great Tai Wei Mountain was because he was once the Prince of Green Cloud County. As for perfected immortal Jingyu, he was the Green Cloud County governor and the two of them had some ties. However, things were different now. Yunju nodded slightly. She agreed that there would not be any perfected immortal experts in Absolute Thunder City. Su Zimo continued, "What happened today will spread to Yuanzhua's ears soon. He will know about my cultivation realm. However, he will definitely not expect that I will head to the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom and kill my way into Absolute Thunder City to take his life. He won't be the only one. I'm afraid nobody will expect this." Yunju sighed. If Su Zimo had not asked that question earlier on, even she would not have thought that he would dare to do such a shocking thing. Su Zimo said, "The Tao of assassination emphasizes on the element of surprise. The more unexpected it is, the higher the chance of success. Right now is the best opportunity to kill Yuanzhua." Suddenly, Yunju realized that Su Zimo did not make this decision on impulse. Instead, he had thought it through and planned everything. His intention to kill Yuanzhua through assassination was not only as payback for perfected immortal burial night. Yunju thought for a long time but was still worried. She shook her head. "If you can cultivate to become a grade 8 or grade 9 heaven immortal, I won't stop you. I'm afraid no one among the heaven immortals will be your match. However, you're only a grade 6 heaven immortal right now. There's a difference of 3 minor cultivation realms between you and a grade 9 heaven immortal. Even if you fight Yuanzhua one-on-one, you probably won't stand a chance of winning, let alone assassinate him in Absolute Thunder City that is heavily guarded and filled with experts. Yuanzhua is not weak. Right now, he's rank 98 on the heaven ranking prediction. Your hell suppression tripod is not with you right now as well." Su Zimo smiled. "If I really cultivate to the realm of a grade 8 or grade 9 heaven immortal, I probably won't have a chance to assassinate Yuanzhua." Yunju was sharp and intelligent. With a single thought, she understood what Su Zimo was implying. If she was Prince Yuanzhua and heard that Su Zimo had cultivated to become a grade 9 heaven immortal, she would definitely be careful and not leave the territory of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. Furthermore, she would be even more guarded and would not expose her tracks easily. In fact, she might even design some traps to kill Su Zimo instead. But now that she knew that Su Zimo was only a grade 6 heaven immortal, she would definitely not be bothered. Who would expect a grade 6 heaven immortal to head to Absolute Thunder City of Great Jin Immortal Kingdom to assassinate a grade 9 heaven immortal prince who was on the heaven ranking prediction? This plan was way too bold. This was destined to be a shocking assassination attempt. If he succeeded, who knew how much of a stir it would cause in the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain? You've hunted me for so long. It's time to end this. Su Zimo lowered his head slightly and murmured with a cold killing intent in his eyes. Actually, the reason why he chose to assassinate Prince Yuanzhua was not only to take revenge for perfected Immortal Burial Night, but also for himself. Up till this point of his ascension, he had not been able to break free from the pursuit of Prince Yuanzhua and had barely escaped death countless times. However, he was not strong enough and could not retaliate. Since he was prepared to attack today, he would not give Yuanzhua any chance to turn the tides. Furthermore, he wanted to kill his way into Yuanzhua's territory and give the other party a huge surprise. There was another important thing that had been on Su Zimo's mind all these years. He wanted to find out how Prince Yuanzhua knew that he was taking part in the immortal sex election as well as how the latter recognized his disguise. Chapter 2466, 2466 Return to Absolute Thunder City. 2466 Return to Absolute Thunder City. When Yunzhu saw that Su Zimo had made up his mind, she did not persuade him further. Pondering for a moment, she said, I can't help you with this matter. Take this talisman. As she said that, Yunzhu took out a talisman from her storage bag and stuffed it into Su Zimo's hands. Teleportation Jade Talisman? Su Zimo recognized the talisman and shook his head hurriedly. No, this talisman is way too precious. In many cases, long-range teleportation Jade Talisman like this could help the caster escape from danger. It was equivalent to an additional life. Back when the sect master of the academy accepted him as an in-name disciple, he merely gave him a similar jade badge. Su Zimo said, furthermore, given my capabilities, I'll be able to escape from Absolute Thunder City after killing Prince Yuanzhua. You can rest assured. Yunzhu said sternly, Brother Su, listen to me. No matter if this succeeds or not, I hope that you can return as soon as possible. This teleportation Jade Talisman can teleport you directly to the teleportation formation of the Zhixian Immortal Kingdom. At that time, you might be able to rush back and send perfected Immortal Burial Night on his final journey. Su Zimo went silent. Given his capabilities, it would not be difficult for him to escape from Absolute Thunder City. However, once Prince Yuanzhua was killed, the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom would definitely fall into martial law and he would definitely not have a chance to approach the teleportation formation. Indeed, it would take him some time to escape from the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. Yunzhu smiled. Take it. If this succeeds, I'll take some credit for it. All right. After a moment of silence, Su Zimo did not decline and nodded. Farewell. Yunzhu said, be careful. Su Zimo left the carriage and took a deep breath, speeding in the direction of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. To be precise, the next battle could be considered as his first true battle after entering the Heaven Immortal Realm. In the battle on Great Tai Wei Mountain, he purely made use of the power of the Hell Suppression Tripod to defeat Prince Yuanzhua and the others. Outsiders did not know about his fight against the prince and princess in the Pure Jade Manual. The prince and princess were defeated and suffered a loss in his hands. For their dignity, there was no way they would publicize this matter. However, this battle was different. Once this battle broke out, it would definitely spread through the entire Divine Firmament and even the 9 Firmament Immortal Domain. That's good as well. Since I intend to contend for the heaven ranking, I'll let you guys witness my capabilities. Su Zimo's eyes were filled with fighting spirit and he swelled with pride. He could not help but roar into the skies and release many movement techniques and secret skills as he sped forward with all his might. With the help of the Trinity Auspicious Jade, Su Zimo could easily enter the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom after transforming into the appearance of the Heaven Execution Guard Commander, Lone Star. Thereafter, he did not stop at all and activated teleportation formations repeatedly, arriving in Absolute Thunder City. The teleportation formation of Absolute Thunder City was at the northwest corner of the City Lord's residence. It was late at night and a light flashed. Su Zimo's figure appeared and descended on the teleportation formation. Not far away, there were 4 City Lord's residence guards watching over the teleportation formation. Sensing the commotion, they looked over. Su Zimo swept his spirit consciousness across. The 4 guards guarding the teleportation formation were all Earth immortals. In any case, experts would definitely not be sent to guard teleportation formations. Greetings, Commander Lone Star. When the 4 City Lords' residence guards saw Su Zimo, they bowed hurriedly. Su Zimo's expression was cold as he nodded slightly and walked towards the 4 of them. Before he arrived, he released a tremendous spirit consciousness pressure. The 4 of them could not move at all and looked at Su Zimo in confusion and fear. Without a second word, Su Zimo reached out and captured their essence spirits from their consciousnesses, using the soul-searching art. He wanted to know information about Prince Yuanzhua as well as the latter's location. Before long, their essence spirits dimmed and cracks appeared. The 4 guards died silently. Su Zimo had already obtained the information he needed. He looked in the direction of the main hall of the City Lord's residence with a killing intent in his eyes. As he had expected, Absolute Thunder City had suffered immense damage after Feng Cantillon broke free. Although it had already recovered, its reputation was not as good as before. There were no perfected immortal experts in Absolute Thunder City either. The City Lord of Absolute Thunder City was Yuanzhua, and he usually cultivated in the City Lord's residence. Su Zimo placed the corpses of the 4 guards casually into a storage bag and hid them. Thereafter, he arrived before the teleportation formation and a few sword chi surged out from his fingertip, destroying the runes on the teleportation formation and slicing the cornerstone into pieces. For teleportation formations in cities like Absolute Thunder City, their teleportation distance was limited and they could only teleport within the radius of Green Cloud County at most. Only the teleportation formation of Green Cloud City could teleport one to the capital or border of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. As for teleportation to factions outside the territory of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom such as the Zhixian Immortal Kingdom, only the teleportation formation in the capital of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom could do it. Therefore, once something happened, the entire Great Jin Immortal Kingdom would be under martial law and the teleportation formations would be sealed right away. The teleportation formation of Absolute Thunder City was useless for Su Zimo. However, if the perfected immortal experts of the other cities received the news and wanted to descend upon Absolute Thunder City to provide reinforcements right away, this teleportation formation was the only way. Su Zimo's destruction of the teleportation formation meant that even if the perfected immortal experts of the other cities received the news, it would be difficult for them to reach Absolute Thunder City within a short period of time. He would have relatively more time to get rid of Prince Yuanzhua. Su Zimo left the place and headed towards the main hall of the City Lord's residence according to the memories he obtained from the soul-searching art. Lone Star was the commander of the Heaven Execution Guards. As such, he traveled through the City Lord's residence almost smoothly without encountering any obstacles. Using the Trinity Auspicious Jade, not only could he imitate the other party's appearance and figure, he could even conjure his attire and accessories without any flaws. The only loophole was that the cultivation realm could not be replicated. Su Zimo was a grade 6 Heaven Immortal while Lone Star was a grade 9 Heaven Immortal. However, Lone Star had a high status. Which of the guards would release their spirit consciousnesses rashly to check his cultivation realm? Furthermore, the guards in the City Lord's residence were relatively relaxed and were clearly unprepared. After many twists and turns, Su Zimo was getting closer and closer to the main hall of the city lord's residence. 2 more patrolling guards appeared at the front. One was a grade 4 heaven immortal, the other was a grade 5 heaven immortal. Along the way, the cultivation of the guards he encountered increased. This also meant that he was not far from Prince Yuanzhua. "Greetings, Commander Lone Star." When the 2 guards saw Su Zimo, they bowed instinctively. But soon, the 2 of them exchanged glances in confusion. One of them frowned. Didn't Commander Lone Star just head over? Why? A cold glint flashed through Su Zimo's eyes as he struck decisively. He strode forward and tapped their glabella twice with his fingertip. It was too fast. Caught off guard, the 2 guards felt their vision blur. Immediately after, they felt sharp pains in their minds and lost consciousness. The entire process took less than a single breath, and it was done silently. Su Zimo stuffed the 2 corpses into his storage bag and hid them. In the night, Su Zimo's expression looked sinister and cold. Up ahead, the outline of the main hall could already be vaguely seen. Crack. At the front, the sound of porcelain shattering could be heard. Su Zimo did not use his spirit consciousness, worried that he would disturb Prince Yuanzhua. He merely relied on his powerful hearing to vaguely capture the conversation. One of them seemed to be extremely furious and was venting something. Su Zimo sneered and retracted his aura. He was almost hidden in his surroundings as he advanced stealthily. Chapter 2467, 2467 to kill you. 2467 to kill you. Absolute Thunder City, main hall of the city lord's residence. How detestable. Prince Yuanzhua glared at the teacup on the ground that he had just smashed. With a dark expression, he said hatefully, "Su Zimo spoiled my plans again." Lone Star said, "I heard that not only did painting immortal Mo Qing of Heaven and Earth Academy step in this time round, even the imperial army of the Zixian Immortal Kingdom was involved." When the god race being, Shu Gan, appeared, Zhu Wuying had no choice but to retreat. Why is the Zixian Immortal Kingdom involved? Prince Yuanzhua had a frustrated expression. Isn't that young prince, Yun Ting, at complete odds with Su Zimo and wants to fight him to the death? I'm not sure about that. Lone Star shook his head. Pausing for a moment, he continued, however, it's said that old man Burial Knight won't be able to survive. What's the use of his death? Feng Zi has already escaped. The more Prince Yuanzhua thought about it, the angrier he became. His voice rose unconsciously as well as he said, "If I want to regain my title as the Prince of Green Cloud County, I can only capture Feng Zi and the others and lure Feng Cantian out to make up for my mistake. But now, that opportunity has been destroyed by Su Zimo. Su Zimo destroyed my clone and stole my taboo mystic classic. He spoiled my plans time and again and embarrassed me completely. He truly deserves to die." Towards the end, Prince Yuanzhua was already gritting his teeth with a menacing expression. Lone Star said in a deep voice, "Your Highness, there's another way to retrieve your title as the Prince of Green Cloud County. Let's just kill Su Zimo. Firstly, killing this lad can resolve the hatred in your Highness's heart. Secondly, this lad has embarrassed the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom countless times. Killing this lad can be considered as saving face for the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. Thirdly, this lad once offended Princess Mengyao. If we kill him, we'll definitely be able to please her. As long as she's willing to put in a good word for your Highness, the position as the Prince of Green Cloud County will be within reach." "You're spouting nonsense." Prince Yuanzhua cursed, "This lowlife has already joined Heaven and Earth Academy and I don't have a chance at all. Do you think I can just walk into Heaven and Earth Academy to kill him?" Lone Star said, "The ranking battle of the Heaven ranking 1,000 years later at the Divine Firmament Immortal Meet might provide an opportunity." "How is that possible?" Prince Yuanzhua sneered, "I've just received news that Su Zimo is now a grade 6 Heaven Immortal. Given his cultivation, without the hell suppression tripod, he won't even be able to enter the heaven ranking prediction. There's no chance for him to take part in the final ranking battle. Lone Star said regrettably, now that I think about it, the alliance on Great Taiwei Mountain 2,000 years ago was the best opportunity to kill him. Who would have thought that this lad would have a treasure like the hell suppression tripod in his possession? Su Zimo suffered quite a loss that time as well. Prince Yuanzhua harumphed coldly. I heard that the current sect master of the Fiend Domain's Tianhuang sect, Desolate Marshal, has already taken control of the hell suppression tripod and the infinite hell. Back in hell, Su Zimo must have encountered Desolate Marshal and fought a huge battle. Although he managed to survive, his hell suppression tripod was snatched away by the latter. Prince Yuanzhua had a dark gaze. This lad has lost the protection of the hell suppression tripod. If there's another chance like before, we'll definitely be able to kill him. Foo-foo. Right then, a chuckle sounded from outside. Who is it? Who's there? Prince Yuanzhua and Lone Star's expressions changed as they asked sternly. Yuanzhua, I'll give you that chance right now. As the voice sounded, a figure entered the hall. Initially, he looked like Lone Star. However, in the blink of an eye, he transformed into a green-robed man with refined features. Lone Star's pupils constricted. Prince Yuanzhua's face was filled with ecstasy. However, he calmed down quickly. This was way too abnormal. What was Su Zimo trying to do by coming to his residence? He must have come prepared for this trip. How many people did he bring, and were there any perfected immortal experts? Prince Yuanzhua narrowed his eyes and released his spirit consciousness to check out his surroundings. He held a messenger jade talisman in his hands and was prepared to tear it apart at any moment. Su Zimo. Prince Yuanzhua tested the waters. Even when he saw Su Zimo's true body, he could not believe it. It's me. Su Zimo nodded. What are you doing here? Prince Yuanzhua asked again. I'll kill you. Su Zimo replied indifferently, there's no need to search. I'm all alone. Lone Star nodded to Prince Yuanzhua. Earlier on, he scanned his surroundings carefully as well and indeed did not find anyone else. Are you really alone? Prince Yuanzhua was relieved and suddenly laughed wildly. Su Zimo, you think that you can kill me in my territory alone? Who do you think you are? Without the hell suppression tripod, you're only a grade 6 heaven immortal. You want to challenge me? I'm rank 98 on the heaven ranking prediction while you're not even qualified to enter it. Is that so? Su Zimo smiled gently. From this day forth, I predict that you won't be on the heaven ranking prediction anymore. The moment he said that, Su Zimo suddenly attacked. There's a difference of 3 minor cultivation realms between us. Let's see how you can make up for it. Prince Yuanzhua's reaction was extremely fast as well, and he summoned his saber and sword right away. Both of them were connate heaven-grade dermic treasures that were held in front of him. Splash! The blood chi in Prince Yuanzhua's body surged with the sound of a tsunami. Su Zimo charged towards Prince Yuanzhua. While he was still in midair, he released his innate divine power, the 6-tusk divine strength. The power of his body and essence spirit increased exponentially. At the same time, he channeled his essence spirit and conjured hand seals slowly with both hands. Massive star regions appeared above his head and shone with 1 billion stars, scattering endless starlight that shattered the hall and surged into his body. The appearance of the mystic spirit Big Dipper diagram caused Su Zimo's strength to rise once more. After all these years of cultivation, Su Zimo had already lit up 6 of the 7 star regions of the mystic spirit Big Dipper diagram, leaving only the last one that was dim. Even so, the mystic spirit Big Dipper diagram's power was extremely terrifying and could even go against bloodline phenomenons. By the time Su Zimo arrived before Prince Yuanzhua, his aura was no different from the latter. In terms of ferocity, he even had the upper hand. Prince Yuanzhua's expression changed starkly and his heart sank. He finally realized that the situation was bad. Because he cultivated the Prajna Nirvana Sutra, Su Zimo's Green Lotus Essence Spirit and Dragon Phoenix Essence Spirit had already synthesized perfectly. Although his cultivation realm was at the grade 6 Heaven Immortal Realm, his Essence Spirit realm was already at the grade 9 Heaven Immortal Realm. Now, he released his innate divine power, the six-tusked divine strength as well. Although the power of his Essence Spirit was far from the level of a perfected immortal, it had already surpassed a grade 9 Heaven Immortal. Therefore, when Prince Yuanzhua saw Su Zimo charging over, he felt a tremendous pressure that suffocated him. Star-plucking hand. Lone Star's reaction was extremely fast as well. He made a prompt decision and channeled his Essence Spirit, releasing a supreme divine power in Su Zimo's direction. You're tuning in to the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.